She shouldn't have been alive. 3 days, freezing ocean, no rescue, no hope. When the helicopter cut through Arctic fog, they expected a corpse. What they found was a ghost gripping a weapon that shouldn't exist. 17 confirmed kills, distances beyond human capability. Each shot, a death sentence for someone powerful. She wasn't a survivor, she was an assassin, trained since childhood, engineered for perfection, turned rogue. Now the system that created her wants her erased. The rifle in her hands holds evidence that could destroy empires. And the 4,112-meter shot that made her legendary? It was just the beginning. One woman, one weapon, one truth that powerful people will kill to bury. This is the story of the shot that changed everything. Before we dive in, if you're ready to follow this story to its explosive end, hit that subscribe button. Drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this tale travels. Now, let's begin. The North Atlantic didn't forgive mistakes. Lieutenant Commander Ethan Rourke knew that better than most. 22 years in the Navy, 8 of those flying rescue ops in waters cold enough to stop your heart in minutes. He'd pulled bodies from the ocean, watched hypothermia shut down good men like someone flipping a switch. 3 days in these waters? You didn't survive that, you became a statistic. Sierra Victor 2, we have visual on the debris field. The voice crackled through his headset. Petty Officer Nash, their rescue swimmer, leaning half out of the Seahawk's open door. Rourke adjusted his grip on the side-slick. The helicopter shuddered through another gust. Below, chunks of what used to be a 40-foot vessel scattered across dark water like broken teeth. Any movement? Negative. Wait. Nash went quiet, then, Sir, I've got something. Port side of the main wreckage. Could be... Jesus Christ. Talk to me, Nash. There's someone down there. Rourke's jaw tightened. Status? Can't tell. Not moving. But they're positioned, like they're waiting. That didn't make sense. Survivors didn't wait. They waved, screamed, thrashed. Get me lower! Rourke dropped the Seahawk into a hover, fighting the wind that wanted to shove them sideways. Ocean spray hammered the windscreen. Nash deployed the rescue basket. I'm going down! The winch motor whined. Through the side window, Rourke caught his first glimpse. A figure, pale, motionless, draped across a section of hull, and holding something that definitely wasn't standard safety equipment. Nash, you seen what I'm seeing? Copy that, sir. Looks like a rifle. A what? Long gun. Serious hardware. She's got it in a death grip. Rourke had pulled 73 people from the ocean, 24 of them dead. Every single corpse had the same look. Slack features, empty eyes, hands frozen in whatever position they'd locked into when the cold shut them down. This woman looked like she was on a firing line, waiting for the command. Nash touched down on the wreckage. The helicopter bucked as a wave rolled through. Rourke held position, watching his swimmer move toward the figure with the careful approach of someone who'd learned not to trust what the ocean gave up. Ma'am? Nash's voice came through. Ma'am, can you hear me? Nothing. I'm going to check vitals, sir. Copy. Watch yourself. Rourke counted seconds. The fuel gauge nagged at the edge of his vision. They had maybe 10 minutes before they'd need to abort. Sir? Nash's voice had changed. She's alive. Say again? She's got a pulse. Weak, but it's there. Core temp has to be... He stopped. Sir, she just opened her eyes. The chill that ran down Rourke's spine had nothing to do with the temperature. Is she responsive? She's looking at me, not blinking, just watching. Can she talk? I don't... Wait, she's moving. Through the side window, Rourke saw it. Slow, deliberate. The woman shifted her grip on the rifle, adjusting position with the kind of muscle control that shouldn't exist in someone 3 days hypothermic. Nash, get the basket under her. Now. Sir, she won't let go of the weapon. Then bring it with her. I don't care. We're running out of time. What should have taken 30 seconds stretched into 2 minutes. The woman didn't fight, didn't panic. She just complied. Like she was running calculations. Measuring Nash's movements, deciding if cooperation served her purposes. When the basket finally cleared the door, Rourke got his first close look. Mid-30s, maybe. Scandinavian features. Blonde hair plastered dark against her skull. Lips blue, skin gray-white. And eyes that didn't match the rest of her. Clear, focused, tracking every movement in the cabin with mechanical precision. Get a blanket on her, Rourke said. And somebody secure that weapon before... The woman's hand moved. Fast. faster than someone hypothermic should be capable of. Nash jerked back, hands up. Whoa, hey, we're trying to help. She didn't speak, just readjusted her grip, keeping the rifle close. Protective, like it was the only thing in the world she trusted. Ma'am. Rourke twisted in his seat, making eye contact. I'm Lieutenant Commander Rourke, U.S. Navy. You're safe now. We need to get you medical attention. Can you understand me? For 3 long seconds, she just stared. Then, so quiet he almost missed it. Rifle stays with me. Her accent was hard to place. American base maybe, but with edges worn smooth by time in other places. We need to examine you. Rifle stays. Nash shot Rourke a look that said your call. Fine. Rourke turned back to the controls. But when we touch down, you follow medical protocol. Non-negotiable. She didn't respond. Didn't nod. Just closed her eyes like the conversation was over. The flight back took 17 minutes. Nobody spoke. When Rourke glanced over his shoulder, the woman hadn't moved, hadn't shivered, hadn't shown any of the physiological responses he'd seen hundreds of times. She just sat there holding that rifle, looking like death's accountant. And somewhere in the back of his mind, a question formed that wouldn't let go. What the hell did we just pull out of the ocean? Naval support activity. South Iceland operated at the edge of the world. Technically, it was a logistics hub. Refueling stop. Communications relay. One of those places the Navy maintained because someone decided it was strategically useful 50 years ago, and nobody had bothered to question it since. Rourke had been stationed here for 8 months, long enough to know every face, short enough that the isolation hadn't completely ground him down. The medical bay sat at the north end of the facility, a converted cargo building with enough equipment to stabilize trauma cases before evacuation to Reykjavik. Dr. Sarah Chen met them at the pad. 3 days? She didn't wait for confirmation, already moving toward the helicopter. That's not possible. Tell her that. Rourke nodded toward the basket. Chen was good. Calm under pressure. She'd done tours in combat zones, seen things that would make most civilian doctors quit. But when she got her first look at the woman from the wreckage, something flickered across her face. Confusion, maybe. Or recognition of something fundamentally wrong. Let's get her inside. Nash, help me. The woman's eyes snapped open. I can walk. And she did. Slowly, sure. Each movement careful. But she climbed out of that basket under her own power, rifle still clutched against her chest, and walked into the medical bay like someone reporting for duty. Chen shot Rourke a look he couldn't quite read. Sir, we should call this in. Let's get an assessment first, then we figure out next steps. The exam room was small. Harsh fluorescent lighting. That chemical smell every medical facility had. The woman sat on the edge of the bed, still holding the rifle, watching as Chen prepped equipment. I'm Dr. Chen. I need to check your vitals, run some tests, standard protocol for cold water exposure. Can you tell me your name? Silence. How long were you in the water? Nothing. Chen glanced at Rourke, then back. I need you to let go of the weapon so I can... No. Ma'am, I can't properly examine you while you're... Then examine me like this. The room went quiet except for the hum of equipment. Chen took a breath, held it, then pulled out a thermometer. Open your mouth. The woman complied. Mechanical. Efficient. 90 seconds later, Chen was staring at the readout like it had personally insulted her. This can't be right. What? Rourke moved closer. Core temp is 94.3. That's low, but for 3 days in the North Atlantic, her core temp should be in the 80s, high 70s maybe. This is... Chen ran the test again. Same result. This doesn't match the scenario. She moved through the rest of the exam. Blood pressure, heart rate, lung function. Each reading came back wrong. Not catastrophically, just off. Like someone had taken a normal human baseline and tweaked the numbers 5% in directions that shouldn't make sense together. Pulse is 62, steady, no arrhythmia. Is that unusual? After severe hypothermia, yeah, her heart should be struggling. We should be looking at bradycardia, irregular rhythm, the works. Chen sat back. I've treated cold water exposure for 12 years, never seen anything like this. The woman hadn't moved, hadn't reacted to the tests, just sat there like she was waiting for something. Rourke tried again. Can you tell us what happened to your vessel? No. Were you alone? Yes. What were you doing in these waters? Pause. Finishing something? That answer landed weird, too vague to be informative, too specific to be evasive. We'll need to contact your next of kin. Notify them you're safe. Can you give us a name, phone number? The woman's gaze shifted to him, really looked at him for the first time. Eyes like Arctic ice. There's no one to call. Everyone has... There's no one. Chen cleared her throat. Sir, I'd like to run blood work, get a full panel. Something's not adding up medically. Do it. And... Rourke hesitated. Get someone from security. I want eyes on this room until we know more. You think she's a threat? I think we pulled a woman from waters that should have killed her 3 times over, and she won't let go of a weapon I've never seen before. So yeah, let's be careful. As he turned to leave, the woman spoke again. The rifle doesn't leave my sight. We're not taking it. People will try. What people? She didn't answer, just looked at him with that flat, measuring expression that made his instincts scream. Get some rest, he said, and walked out before she could see the unease on his face. The debriefing room was cramped and smelled like bad coffee. Rourke sat across from Commander Patricia Voss, Station CO, Career Logistics Officer, and the kind of by-the-book leader who'd never met a regulation she didn't love. Walk me through it again. Voss had her tablet out, stylus poised. From the top. Distress beacon, automated, no voice transmission. We responded per protocol. Found wreckage from what looked like a mid-range cruiser, 1 survivor. Condition? Alive. Hypothermic, but not critically. Dr. Chen's assessment is inconclusive. Meaning? Meaning the survivor's vitals don't match 3 days of cold water exposure. She should be dead, or close to it. Instead, she's stable, lucid, physically capable. Voss made a note. Identity? She won't provide one. Won't or can't? Won't. She's responsive, coherent, just uncooperative. And the weapon? There it was. The question Rourke had been dreading. Long rifle. Custom build from what I can tell. Nothing I recognize. She refuses to let it go. We need to secure it. Run it through databases. I tried. She made it clear that's not happening. Voss looked up. Lieutenant Commander, we just pulled an armed individual of unknown origin from international waters. This isn't a request. That weapon gets cataloged and secured. End of discussion. Ma'am, with respect, forcing the issue right now seems what? Like good security protocol? Voss stood. I'll have Master-at-Arms Patterson handle it. She can complain all she wants from a locked room. Commander, that's final. Get me a full report by 1800. And Rourke? Voss paused at the door. Next time you pull someone from the ocean, maybe check if they're carrying contraband before bringing them to my facility. The door clicked shut. Rourke sat there, staring at his coffee, feeling the situation slide sideways. His phone buzzed. Text from Chen. You need to see this. Now. He found her in the lab annex, bent over a microscope. Tell me you've got something that makes sense. Opposite. Chen didn't look up. Blood work came back. Everything's normal. Too normal. Explain. Electrolyte balance perfect. Glucose levels textbook. No signs of dehydration, malnutrition, stress indicators. Nothing. She finally met his eyes. Ethan, I've seen combat survivors, shipwreck victims, people who spent hours in hostile environments. Their blood tells stories, trauma leaves markers. This? She gestured at the readout. This is cleaner than mine. Maybe she's just healthy. Nobody's this healthy after 3 days in the North Atlantic. Her body should show something. Elevated cortisol, inflammatory markers, metabolic disruption. But it's like she spent the weekend at a spa. Rourke leaned against the counter. What are you saying? I'm saying either our scenario's wrong or she's not, I don't know, normal. People don't just ignore hypothermia, Sarah. I know, that's what bothers me. Chen pulled up another screen. I also ran a basic tox screen. Found traces of compounds I can't identify. Nothing dangerous, but unusual. Synthetic markers. Like someone's been taking specialized medication. Performance enhancing? Maybe. Or something else. I sent samples to the main lab in Reykjavik for deeper analysis, but that'll take days. Before Rourke could respond, his radio crackled. Lieutenant Commander Rourke to medical, immediate. He ran. Yeah, he found Patterson outside the exam room. The Master-at-Arms was holding his side, face pale. What happened? I tried to secure the weapon. Patterson grimaced. She disagreed. She hurt you? She moved, fast. Didn't even touch me, but I went for my sidearm and she... He stopped. Sir, I've done 5 tours, trained in hand-to-hand. That woman read my movement before I made it. Put me on the ground in maybe 2 seconds. Didn't even breathe hard. Through the observation window, Rourke could see her, still sitting on the bed, rifle across her lap, like nothing had happened. She say anything? Just repeated that the rifle stays with her, then asked if we were done wasting time. Voss arrived, face tight. Status? Patterson attempted to secure the weapon per your orders. Subject resisted. No serious injuries. Resisted is putting it lightly, Patterson muttered. Voss stared through the window. All right, new approach. Lock down the room. Postguard outside. Nobody enters without my authorization. And get me everything we can find on that wreckage. Registration, last known position, anything. She turned to Rourke. What's your read? He chose his words carefully. I think we're dealing with someone who knows exactly what they're doing, and I think that rifle matters more than we understand. Then we find out why. Voss checked her watch. I've got a call with NAVEUR in an hour. They'll want answers, so let's get some. The wreckage analysis came back 2 hours later. Petty Officer Marcus Webb handled station intelligence, a fancy title for the guy who ran database queries and filed reports nobody read, but he was thorough. Vessel registration comes back to a shell company, 3 layers deep, incorporated in Panama, dead end. Rourke studied the photos spread across Webb's desk. What about the debris? That's where it gets interesting. Hull fragments show signs of explosive damage. Shaped charge, most likely. Military grade. Someone sank her deliberately? Looks that way. Scuttling charge, maybe, or combat action. Hard to say without more to work with. Equipment? We recovered some electronics, burned out, but I sent what I could to crypto. If there's recoverable data, they'll find it. Webb pulled up another image. The rifle, though, that's the real mystery. The photo showed the weapon in detail. Sleek, purpose-built. Carbon fiber stock, custom barrel assembly, integrated ranging optics that looked more like something off a satellite than a firearm. I ran it through every database we've got. Military, law enforcement, private sector. Nothing matches. Custom build? Has to be. But the craftsmanship... Webb zoomed in on the action. This isn't garage-level work. This is precision manufacturing. Tolerances you'd see in aerospace. And these markings... He pointed to a series of characters etched near the receiver. Not standard. Could be a serial system. Could be something else. Can we trace the components? I can try, but it'll take time. Whoever built this didn't use off-the-shelf parts. Rourke's phone buzzed. Chen again. Patient's awake. You should come. Keep digging, Rourke told Webb. Anything you find, I want to know. Mom. The woman was standing when he entered. Not pacing, just standing at the window, looking out at the gray ocean, rifle held loosely in one hand. She didn't turn around. I know you're there. Rourke closed the door. We need to talk. About what? Who you are, what happened, why you're here. Does it matter? Yeah, it does. She turned. In the pale light, her features looked carved from ice. Your people tried to take my rifle. Standard security protocol. Well, there's nothing standard about this situation, Commander. The title hung in the air. He hadn't told her his rank. You know who I am. I know your type. Career military, good at your job. Probably wondering if you made a mistake pulling me out of that water. She moved closer. You did. Excuse me? I wasn't calling for rescue. That beacon was a tracker. I knew they'd come eventually, just needed to stay alive long enough. They who? People who want me dead. People who won't stop because you gave me a warm bed and medical attention. She held up the rifle. This is the only reason I'm still breathing. Evidence, insurance, leverage. Take it, and I'm just another loose end to clean up. Rourke felt the pieces shifting, not quite fitting. Evidence of what? Things powerful people don't want known. That's not an answer. It's the only one you get right now. He studied her, looking for deception, finding only cold certainty. We ran your blood, found compounds we can't identify. Of course you did. Care to explain? No. You're not making this easy. I'm not trying to. She moved to the bed, sat down. Here's what's going to happen. You'll keep me here while you run your databases. Check missing persons. Search for my fingerprints in whatever systems you have access to. You won't find anything, because I don't exist, not in any file you can reach. Everyone exists somewhere. Not me, Not anymore. She looked at him with something that might have been pity. You seem like a decent person, Commander, so I'll give you advice. Let me go. Provide a boat, some supplies. Forget you found me. It's safer that way. For who? Everyone. Rourke crossed his arms. Can't do that. Why not? Because I've got procedures, a chain of command, and a CO who's currently on the phone with people way above my pay grade, trying to figure out what to do with you. He paused. But mainly because I've been doing this long enough to know when someone's running from something. And whatever you're running from, it followed you here. She didn't deny it, just sat there, rifle across her knees, looking like someone waiting for a storm. When they come, she said quietly, don't try to stop them. You'll just get people killed. Is that a threat? It's a certainty. Before he could respond, the door opened. Chen stuck her head in. Sir, Commander Voss needs you. Now. The urgency in her voice killed whatever response he'd been planning. He looked back at the woman. We're not done. We will be. She turned back to the window. Sooner than you think, Voss's office overlooked the flight line. Through the window, Rourke could see maintenance crews working on one of the Seahawks. Navier wants her transferred to Keflavik within 24 hours. On what grounds? National security, possible foreign intelligence asset, unknown origin with military-grade equipment. Voss pulled up a classified brief on her screen. They're sending a team, specialists, people who handle unusual cases. She's a shipwreck survivor. She's an armed individual who appeared in our waters carrying a weapon we can't identify, with physiology that doesn't match the scenario and no verifiable identity. Voss met his eyes. Ethan, I know you brought her in. I know you feel responsible, but this is out of our hands now. What kind of specialists? The kind who ask questions we're not cleared to hear answered. Black site interrogation, enhanced techniques, indefinite detention, all the things they didn't talk about in public. She's not a threat. You don't know that. I know she had multiple opportunities to hurt people and didn't. I know she's scared. She doesn't look scared. That's what scares me. Voss leaned back. The team arrives tomorrow at 0600. Until then, she stays locked down. Full security. No unsupervised contact. And Ethan? She softened slightly. I know this feels wrong, but some things are bigger than what feels right. He left without responding. The night shift was always quiet. Rourke found himself in the observation room adjacent to where they'd moved her. Maximum security, reinforced walls, monitored access, guards outside. She was awake, sitting cross-legged on the floor, rifle partially disassembled in front of her, cleaning it with the kind of ritualistic precision that spoke of thousands of repetitions. He watched through the one-way glass. Methodical, each component examined, checked, reassembled. No wasted movement, no hesitation. Like a sacrament. His phone buzzed. Webb. Sir, Crypto got something from the wreckage electronics. What? Partial data recovery. Looks like shot logs, range calculations, atmospheric data, sniper telemetry. From what? From her rifle. It's got onboard diagnostics, records every shot, environmental conditions, adjustments, results. How many shots? Pause. 17 confirmed, all documented with full metadata. 17. That number triggered something. Can you see the targets? Not specifics, just distances, angles, wind compensation, the kind of data you'd use to... Webb stopped. Sir, the last entry shows a confirmed hit at 4,112 meters. Say that again. 4,112 meters, verified kill. That's not possible. World record is 3,540 meters. This is beyond that. Way beyond. Rourke's blood went cold. When? 4 days ago, right before the vessel was destroyed. He looked through the glass. She'd finished reassembling the rifle, was just sitting there now, holding it, eyes closed, like she was remembering. Webb, I need those logs. Everything you can recover. Already sending them. Rourke ended the call, stared at the woman through the glass. Who are you? His tablet chimed. The files Webb sent. He opened the first one. Technical data, ballistic coefficients, atmospheric pressure, wind speed, temperature gradients, all feeding into calculations that resulted in a single shot across a distance that shouldn't be achievable. But it was the second file that made him stop breathing. A name. Cross-reference from encrypted communications recovered from the wreckage debris. Marcus Hale, defense contractor, billionaire, CEO of Hale Dynamics, one of the largest private military suppliers in the world. Reported dead 3 days ago. Helicopter accident over the Norwegian Sea. The official story, mechanical failure, bad weather, no survivors. The distance from his last known position to where Rourke had found her? 4,112 meters. He looked up, through the glass, at the woman who'd somehow made an impossible shot and then disappeared into the ocean like a ghost. She opened her eyes, looked directly at the observation window, like she knew he was there, knew what he'd just learned, and smiled. Not warm, not friendly. The smile of someone who'd already calculated every move, every consequence, every outcome. Then she mouthed 2 words. They're coming. The alarm cut through the quiet at 0317, perimeter breach, north fence line. Rourke was moving before his brain fully processed it. Radio in hand, weapon drawn, adrenaline spiking hard. All personnel, this is not a drill. Security Protocol Delta. Lock down all sensitive areas. Report to... The lights died. Emergency systems kicked in 3 seconds later. Red backup lighting. Enough to see. Not enough to feel safe. Commander Voss? He keyed his radio. Static. Voss, respond. Nothing. Communications down. Power down. At a facility that had redundant systems specifically to prevent both from failing simultaneously. This wasn't random. He ran toward the detention block, found Patterson and 2 other guards in the hallway, armed, confused. What's happening? Don't know, sir. Everything just went dark. Radio's dead. The prisoner? Secure, but glass shattered, somewhere close, followed by a sound that made Rourke's training kick in hard. Suppressed gunfire. Get her out of that room. Now. Patterson moved to the door, keyed in his override. Nothing happened. Electronic locks are down. Then break it. They used a pry bar. Took 40 precious seconds. When the door finally gave, Rourke expected resistance. Instead, he found her standing in the center of the room, rifle assembled, ready, looking at him with absolutely no surprise. I told you they'd come. Rourke didn't lower his weapon. How did you know? Because I'm still alive. She moved toward the door, scanning the hallway with the kind of tactical awareness that made his neck prickle. How many entry points to this facility? That's classified. How many? Another burst of suppressed fire echoed from somewhere in the building, closer this time. Patterson swore under his breath. Main gate, vehicle depot, 2 service entrances, and the dock. They'll hit all 5 simultaneously. Divide your response. Create confusion. She looked at Rourke. How many guards on duty? 12. Against what's coming, you might as well have none. Voss's voice crackled through Patterson's radio. Weak signal. Heavy interference. All units, unknown hostiles, north sector, lethal force authorized. Then static. The woman, whoever she was, moved into the hallway like she owned it, checking angles, reading spaces. Every movement economical, precise. You need to evacuate non-essential personnel. Now. I'm not taking tactical advice from a prisoner, Rourke said, even as part of him knew she was right. Then watch people die because you're too stubborn to listen. She glanced back. Your call, Commander. Patterson looked between them. Sir? The building shuddered. Something had exploded. Not close, but not far enough. Rourke made the calculation. Get everyone to the secure communications room. Emergency protocols. Patterson, you're with me. Where are you going? To find out what we're dealing with. The woman started walking. You're going the wrong way. I didn't ask you. Main power junction is East Corridor, right? They'll secure it first. Cut reinforcements, then work inward. She paused at the intersection, checking corners. If you want to survive the next 10 minutes, you follow me. Everything in Rourke's training said not to trust her, but everything in his gut said she was the only one here who understood what was happening. He lowered his weapon slightly. Lead. She did. They moved through the facility in near darkness. Emergency lights cast everything in blood-red shadows. The woman navigated like she'd memorized the layout, which shouldn't be possible since she'd been locked in a single room. How do you know this building? I don't, but I know how they think, and they think like I do. That answer didn't help. They reached a T-junction. She raised a fist. Military stop signal. Dropped low, peered around the corner, pulled back fast. 3 contacts, suppressed carbines, NODs, moving towards central administration. You saw all that in 2 seconds? You didn't? Patterson keyed his radio. Any unit, we have hostile hut. She grabbed his wrist. Hard. No comms, they're listening. How do you Because it's what I do. She released him. You broadcast, you die. Understand? Rourke studied her in the dim light, calm, focused, like this was just another Tuesday. Who are you? Someone trying to keep you alive. That's not an answer. It's the only one that matters right now. Another explosion. This one shook dust from the ceiling. Lights flickered. Somewhere someone was screaming. The woman's expression didn't change. They're using shape charges on the armory, eliminating your response capability. She glanced at Rourke. How long until your people arrive from Reykjavik? 40 minutes, maybe less. You'll be dead in 15 if you don't move smarter. She checked her rifle. I can give you options, but you have to trust me. Why should I? Because I've been on their side of this. I know how they operate, how they breach, how they kill. She met his eyes. And because right now, I'm the only weapon you have that they don't expect. Patterson looked sick. Sir, we need to... Gunfire erupted. Not suppressed this time. Someone was fighting back. 3-round bursts, training manual perfect. Then silence. Rourke counted to 10. Nothing. That was your perimeter team, the woman said. They're inside now, moving fast. You have maybe 5 minutes before they reach personnel quarters. Then we stop them. 3 of us against a trained assault team? That's suicide. You got a better idea? She smiled, that same cold expression from before. Yeah, we make them think they're hunting me, draw them away from your people. Give your reinforcements time to arrive. Using yourself as bait? Using you as bait. I'll be the hunter. Rourke felt the world tilt. You want us to get their attention, make noise, run scared, lead them into kill zones I set up. She chambered around. Trust me, I'm very good at kill zones. This is insane. This is combat, and right now you're losing. She moved toward the stairwell. Coming or not? Patterson looked at Rourke. Sir? Every protocol said no. Every instinct said yes. We do this my way, Rourke said. You don't fire unless I authorize. Fine. And when this is over, you give me answers. If we're both still breathing, sure. She disappeared up the stairs before he could respond. The next 7 minutes rewrote everything Rourke thought he knew about combat. The woman, he still didn't have a name, moved through the facility like smoke. Silent, invisible. Positioning herself with the kind of tactical sophistication he'd only seen in special operations videos, she hand-signaled them to the second-floor corridor. Wide hallway, multiple doors, limited cover, perfect ambush territory. Make noise, she whispered, then get flat. What are you... Now. Patterson fired 3 rounds into the ceiling. The sound was deafening in the confined space. They dropped. 5 seconds later, 2 figures appeared at the far end of the hallway. Black tactical gear. Nods. Moving with professional precision. Rourke saw the woman's rifle barrel extend from a doorway they'd passed, saw the tiny laser dot paint the lead hostile's head. 1 shot. The suppressor made it sound like someone coughing. The first hostile dropped. The second started to turn. Second shot, both down before either could transmit. She emerged, checking their bodies with clinical efficiency. Level 4 body armor, encrypted comms, Russian optics. Someone spent money. You just killed 2 people. I saved 30. She stripped one of the radios. Your perimeter team was 12. Hostiles took them out in under 3 minutes. That leaves 28 station personnel. These 2 don't report. Someone comes looking. We need to move. Rourke stared at the bodies. Clean headshots. Center mass would have been absorbed by the armor. She'd known that. Adjusted. Executed. How long have you been doing this? Too long. She clipped the radio to her belt. Your security office? Where is it? West Wing, 2nd floor. Show me. Fast. They ran. The security office was chaos. Monitors showed multiple breaches. The main gate. Service entrance. Dock. Just like she'd predicted. Voss was there, coordinating over a backup landline. She looked up when they entered. Rourke, what the hell? She saw the woman with the rifle. Get her secured. Ma'am, she just took out 2 hostiles. Saved our lives. She's the reason they're here. Actually, the woman said, studying the monitors, I'm the reason you're still alive. If they wanted everyone dead, this place would be rubble. She pointed at one screen. See that? They're hurting you. Controlling space, pushing personnel toward central locations where they can... The lights died again. When emergency power kicked in, 3 of the monitors were dead, the ones showing exterior views. They've cut the camera feeds, the woman said. Means they're about to do something they don't want recorded. Voss grabbed a radio. All personnel, fall back to the command center. Barricade and... Don't! The woman's voice was sharp. Command center has one entry point. You put everyone there, you create a kill box. I don't take tactical advice from prisoners. Then you'll get people killed out of pride. They locked eyes. 2 women, 2 kinds of command, one official, one earned through violence. Rourke stepped between them. Commander, she's been right about everything so far. Maybe we should... An explosion ripped through the building. Close. So close the floor buckled. South wall, the woman said, checking the surviving monitors. Breaching charge. They're inside maintenance now. 4 minutes to personnel quarters. Voss's face went white. Medical bay is in that section. Dr. Chen, the wounded from the perimeter. How many? 7. The woman calculated. Can they move? 3 can. Maybe. Then evacuate them, now. Everyone else, you disperse. Small groups, multiple routes. Make them work for every contact. That's the opposite of standard protocol. Standard protocol is designed for trained responders against criminal threats. This is a precision military operation by people who do this for a living. Your standard protocol will get everyone killed in the next 6 minutes. Voss looked at Rourke. Really looked at him, reading something in his expression. You trust her? I trust she wants to survive. And right now, that means keeping us alive too. The commander grabbed her radio. All units disperse. Delta protocol. Small groups. Multiple rally points. Evacuate medical bay immediately. She turned to the woman. You better be right. I'm always right. That's why they want me dead. Rourke found himself following her again. Patterson close behind, moving through corridors that felt like arteries in a dying body. She'd been quiet for 2 minutes, just moving, thinking. You knew Marcus Hale, he said. She didn't stop walking. Yes. You killed him. Yes. Why? Because he was about to do something that would have gotten thousands killed. And because I was paid to. The casual admission hit like a gut punch. You're an assassin. I was. Past tense. Now I'm just someone who knows too much and refuses to die quietly. She checked a corner. Clear. Hale was my last job. Or supposed to be, until I realized what his death would trigger. Which was... a cover-up. They killed him to silence him, then tried to kill me to erase the evidence, sank my ship, left me to drown. She paused. Except I'm really hard to kill. The rifle. It has records. 17 confirmed kills, all documented, all tied to people who thought themselves untouchable. She looked back at him. That's why they're here. Not for me. For what I know, what I can prove. Who's they? Later, if we survive. They reached the medical bay. The door was open. Inside, chaos. Dr. Chen was helping a wounded security officer onto a gurney. Blood on the floor, smell of copper and antiseptic. Sarah, we need to move. Now. Chen looked up. Saw the woman with the rifle. Froze. It's okay, Rourke said. She's helping. Helping? She's alive. Which is more than you'll be if you don't evacuate. The woman scanned the room. 3 ambulatory, 4 critical. You can't move them all. I'm not leaving patients. You'll die if you stay. Then I'll die doing my job. The woman studied her. Something flickered in her expression. Respect, maybe. Or recognition of someone equally stubborn. Fine, we defend here. But you do exactly what I say. No arguments, no hesitation. Understood? Chen looked at Rourke. He nodded. Understood. The next 3 minutes were controlled chaos. The woman directed them like pieces on a chessboard. Patterson securing the south entrance. Chen moving critical patients to the inner room. Rourke at the north door with a rifle he barely knew how to use. The woman positioned herself in the center. Perfect sight lines, multiple angles of fire. They'll come from the south, she said. 2, maybe 3. Professional, fast. Armed with... Glass shattered in the south corridor. Flash bangs. Get down! The world went white and loud. Rourke's ears rang. Vision swimming. He saw shapes moving, tried to focus, heard that suppressed cough, once, twice, 3 times. When his vision cleared, 3 bodies in black tactical gear were sprawled in the doorway. The woman was already moving, checking them, stripping weapons and radios. 4 down, estimate 6 to 8 more. She handed Patterson one of the carbines. You know how to use this? Yeah. Good, because they're adapting. Chen emerged from the inner room, pale. Who are you people? Right now? Your only chance. The woman keyed one of the captured radios, listened. They're regrouping, waiting for orders. Someone's making calculations. How do you know? Because I taught some of them. She ejected a magazine, checked the rounds, reloaded. This team is Kestrel Group, private military, very expensive, very effective. They don't like casualties, makes them careful. You know them? I trained with them 3 years ago, before I went independent. She looked at Rourke. They're good, but they're also predictable. They'll consolidate, hit with overwhelming force. One final push. Can we hold? Not here, too many entry points. We need to move. You just said we defend here. I lied. Bought us time. Now we use it. She moved to Chen. Can your patients survive transport? Maybe, if we're careful. We don't have time for careful. We have time for alive or dead. Choose. Chen's jaw tightened. We moved them. They did. Fast. Sloppy. The kind of evacuation that violated every medical protocol Chen had ever learned. But they moved. Through corridors, downstairs. The woman leading, reading the building like a map only she could see. They reached a storage area in the basement. Concrete walls. One entrance. Ventilation shafts too small for adult humans. Here. This is a dead end, Patterson said. It's a fortress. One entrance means one firing lane. They can't flank, can't use numbers. She positioned herself facing the door. Everyone behind me, stay flat. Don't move unless I say. Rourke felt it then. The shift. She wasn't just helping them survive. She was conducting a defense with the precision of someone who'd done this 100 times. How long can we hold? Depends. On what? Whether they're willing to lose more people than they're paid to lose. She chambered a round. And whether your reinforcements arrive before I run out of ammunition. Above them, footsteps. Multiple contacts. Moving with purpose. Here they come, she said. Nobody spoke. The wounded stayed silent. Chen must have sedated them. The only sound was breathing and footsteps. Getting closer. The woman's finger rested on the trigger. Not tense, just ready. Like she was waiting for an equation to resolve. The door was steel, reinforced, would take time to breach, unless they used explosives. Which they did. The blast was smaller than Rourke expected. Shape charge. Surgical. The door buckled inward but didn't fall. Smoke poured through the gap. Steady, the woman whispered. A flashbang sailed through. She shot it midair. It detonated harmlessly against the ceiling, flash and noise dissipating before reaching them. Show off, Patterson muttered. Survivor, she corrected. The first hostile came through low and fast. She dropped him with a headshot that made Rourke's stomach turn. The second came high. Same result. The third threw something, grenade maybe, but she'd already moved, sweeping it back through the door with her boot. The explosion outside was much louder. Then silence. 30 seconds, a minute. Her radio crackled. A voice, calm, professional, American accent. Vance, I know you're listening. She didn't respond, just held position, waiting. That was impressive. 4 confirmed kills, maybe more. You haven't lost your edge. Still nothing. But you know how this ends. You're contained. Limited ammunition. No exit. We can wait. She smiled. That cold expression again. Keyed the radio. Then wait. Silence. Then, you always were difficult. Difficult is why you're down 6 operators and I'm still breathing. Fair point. But mathematics isn't on your side. You have what? Maybe 40 rounds left? I have 16 operators still mobile, plus reinforcements en route. You had 22 when you started. Losing 6 in 15 minutes isn't great math either. Pause. This doesn't have to end badly. It already has. Your contractors are dead. Your mission is failed. And the data you came for? Already gone. Sent out before you even breached the perimeter. Rourke stiffened. She'd done what? You're bluffing. Am I? Check your intercepts. You'll find a burst transmission from this facility approximately 18 minutes ago, encrypted, routed through 7 proxies, already delivered. She paused. You're not here to stop me anymore. You're here to make yourselves feel better about failing. The silence stretched longer this time. Who did you send it to? Someone who can't be bought, can't be threatened, and has absolutely no reason to protect you. That's not an answer. It's the only one you get. Now you have a choice. Keep dying, or leave. Your call. Rourke saw Patterson's hand shake on his weapon. Chen had gone completely still. The woman, Vance apparently, just waited, like she'd already calculated every possible response. The radio clicked. This isn't over. It is for tonight. We'll find you again. You'll try, but I'm hard to kill. You should know that by now. Static, then nothing. 2 minutes of silence. 3, 5. Then faint through the concrete the sound of rotors. Not military, too light. Civilian helicopters, extraction birds. They were leaving. Patterson exhaled hard. Did that actually work? They did the math, Vance said, lowering her rifle. Realized the cost exceeded the value. Happens sometimes. Rourke stood. His legs felt like water. You sent the data. When? How? Before they cut communications. Timed burst. Everything the rifle recorded. Plus supporting documentation from my ship's hard drives. She looked at him. I told you. This was never about survival. It was about exposure. Who did you send it to? Prosecutor. International jurisdiction. Someone who's made a career out of taking down people exactly like Hale. And the people who ordered his death. She moved to the door, checking the corridor. Clear, for now. Chen grabbed Rourke's arm. Sir, we need to secure this area. Treat the wounded. Figure out what... She just broadcast classified military data from a U.S. facility. I broadcast evidence of 17 murders and a conspiracy that reaches very high. Vance turned back. You want to arrest me for that, Commander? Go ahead. But you might want to consider who else you'd be protecting. The weight of it hit him. The implications. If what she'd sent was real, if it proved what she claimed, then this was bigger than protocol, bigger than chain of command. This was the kind of truth that ended careers, toppled governments, started wars. I need to see the data. No, you don't. You need to have plausible deniability when people ask what you knew and when you knew it. She checked her rifle. Trust me, it's better this way. I don't even know your real name. Mara Vance, formerly of the U.S. Army Special Operations, formerly of Kestrel Group, formerly of a program that doesn't have a name and officially doesn't exist. She met his eyes. Currently just someone trying to make one thing right before she disappears. You're not disappearing. You're staying right here until what? Your chain of command decides what to do with me? Your government figures out if I'm an asset or a liability? She shook her head. I've been through that, multiple times. It never ends well. Then what? You just walk away? Eventually, when the heat dies down, when enough people understand what I've exposed that killing me becomes counterproductive. She moved toward the door. For now, I'll accept protective custody. Because they'll come back, different team, different approach. And you'll need me alive to testify when this goes to trial. If it goes to trial, it will. Because what I sent can't be buried, can't be spun, can't be explained away. She paused. 17 names. 17 people who thought themselves beyond justice. Now they're all connected to a weapon that doesn't lie. To calculations that can't be faked. To physics that proves exactly what happened, when, and how far away I was when I made it happen. Rourke felt the pieces shifting. Understanding forming. You weren't just killing them, you were documenting it. Every shot, every mission, building a case file while they thought I was just being thorough. She smiled. Turns out being a perfectionist has unexpected benefits. Patterson was staring at her like she'd grown a second head. You planned this, all of it, from the beginning. Not all of it. They weren't supposed to sink my ship. That was improvisation on their part. But I adapted. She looked at the wounded. Your people need real medical attention. And you need to lock this facility down properly. Call your reinforcements. File your reports. Do your jobs. And you? I'll be wherever you put me. Cell, interrogation room, secured wing. Doesn't matter. Just make sure it has good security. Because they will come back. And next time they'll bring enough people that even I can't stop them alone. Dawn broke pale and cold over the facility. Rourke stood in Voss's office. The commander looked like she'd aged 10 years in one night. Casualties? 4 dead, 12 wounded. Could have been a lot worse. She looked up. The preliminary forensic report came back. Every hostel we've examined shows signs of professional military training. Kestrel Group contractors, just like she said. High-end tactical gear, encrypted communications, and absolutely no identification. They'll deny involvement. Of course they will. But we have bodies, evidence, security footage. She paused. And we have her. What are we doing with her? That's above my pay grade now. Navir wants her transferred to... She stopped, reading something on her screen. Actually, Navir doesn't want her transferred. They want her to stay here, under guard, until federal investigators arrive. When? 48 hours. Maybe less. Voss rubbed her eyes. There's been chatter. Encrypted traffic. Something big is happening. Names are surfacing. People are scrambling. Whatever she sent out, it's causing ripples. Rourke thought about the rifle. The data. 17 kills documented with scientific precision. She's telling the truth. About what? All of it. The conspiracy. The cover-up. Hale. He looked at Voss. I've been going through the files Webb recovered, cross-referencing the shot logs with known deaths. 5 of them match public records. Accidents. Suicides. All within the time frame. All from distances that shouldn't be survivable. She's an assassin, Ethan. She's a witness. And if what she documented is real, she's the only thing standing between some very powerful people and accountability. Or she's a sociopath who's manipulating us. Then why risk everything to send the data? Why not just disappear? Voss didn't have an answer. He found Mara in a reinforced holding room. Not the medical bay. Not the cell. Something in between. She was cleaning her rifle again, that same ritual. Methodical. Precise. You lied about sending the data before the attack. She didn't look up. No. I lied about when. Sent it during the firefight, while everyone was distracted. Figured it was the last chance I'd get. Using our systems, our communications. Your unsecured backup line that nobody monitors. Yeah. She reassembled the bolt assembly. You're welcome, by the way, for saving 30 lives. 4 people died. 26 didn't. You want to focus on what I couldn't control or what I prevented? She finally met his eyes. I know you want a villain, Commander. Someone to blame. But I'm not it. I'm just someone who figured out the game was rigged and decided to flip the board. By becoming a killer. By being very good at something people pay a lot of money for. Then using that skill to expose the people who hired me. She set the rifle down. You think I'm proud of this? You think I enjoyed any of it? I don't know what to think about you. Good. Stay confused. It's safer that way. He sat down across from her. The prosecutor you sent the data to. Who is it? Can't tell you, but they're already moving. Subpoenas, warrants, protective custody for witnesses. This thing is going to explode in about 48 hours. Oh, and you'll be at the center. I'll be alive. That's all I care about right now. She leaned back. They'll come after me. Character assassination first. Paint me as crazy. Unreliable. A disgruntled contractor with an axe to grind. Then they'll try legal challenges, chain of custody, admissibility, anything to suppress the evidence. Will it work? Not if the physics holds. And it will, because math doesn't lie. Ballistics don't lie. And my rifle recorded everything with more precision than any testimony could provide. She smiled. Turns out being obsessive about documentation is useful when you're trying to take down a network. Rourke watched her, looking for cracks, finding none. What happens when this is over? If I'm still alive? Witness protection, new identity, quiet life somewhere, nobody knows my face. She paused. But that's a big if. A lot of people want me dead, and they have resources I can't match long term. The Navy can protect you. The Navy is part of the system I'm exposing. You really think there aren't people in your chain of command who benefit from keeping this quiet? The thought had occurred to him. He didn't like it. You don't trust anyone. I trust people who've earned it, and right now that list is very short. She looked at him. You could have turned me over. Let Kestrel finish the job. It would have been easier. That's not how I operate. I know. That's why you're one of the few people I do trust. She stood, moved to the window. When they come back, and they will, stay out of the way. Let me handle it. You can't fight an army alone. I've been alone for 3 years. You'd be surprised what you can do when there's no one else to rely on. The quiet conviction in her voice made him believe her. Webb found him in the communications room 2 hours later. "Sir, you need to see this." The screen showed news feeds, multiple channels, same story breaking simultaneously. Defense contractor linked to assassination network. Federal investigation launched into Hale Dynamics. Mysterious data leak exposes conspiracy. The details were vague. No mention of Mara, no specifics on the evidence, just enough to confirm something massive was happening. "It's real," Webb said. "Whatever she sent, it's real." Rourke watched the feeds multiply. Stock prices dropping, executives resigning, lawyers mobilizing. The storm was breaking. And at its center, one woman with a rifle and 17 documented kills. He walked back to her holding room. She was watching the same feeds on a tablet they'd provided. "Congratulations," he said. "You started a war." "I finished one. There's a difference." She turned off the screen. "Now comes the hard part, which is surviving long enough to testify." She looked out the window at the gray ocean, the same water that should have killed her, the same cold that should have claimed her days ago. But she was still here, still breathing, still fighting, and Rourke realized something that made his blood run cold. This woman wasn't just hard to kill, she was impossible to stop, because she'd already calculated every move, every consequence, every outcome. And whatever came next, she'd seen it coming long before anyone else. The call came at 03:42. Rourke was barely asleep when his phone lit up. Not the facility line, his personal cell. The number blocked. He answered anyway. "Commander Rourke?" The voice was male, calm, the kind of calm that came from knowing you held all the cards. "You have something that belongs to some very concerned parties." "Who is this?" "A messenger, nothing more, and I'm calling with an offer." Rourke sat up, fully awake now. "I'm listening." "The woman in your custody, Mara Vance. Her continued existence creates complications for people who prefer simplicity. We'd like to simplify the situation." "By killing her?" "By resolving a problem before it metastasizes. But we're reasonable people, Commander. We understand you're just doing your job, caught in circumstances beyond your control. Get to the point." "The point is this. Walk away. Take your people. Leave the facility for 6 hours. When you return, the problem will be resolved. No one else needs to get hurt. And you'll find a substantial deposit in an offshore account we've already established in your name." The rage came hot and fast. "You're trying to bribe me?" "We're offering you a choice. Take it, and you retire comfortably in 5 years. Decline, and you become part of the problem. We'd prefer the former, but we're prepared for either outcome." "I'm a naval officer. You think I'd—" "We think you're a pragmatist. We think you've seen enough of Mara Vance to know what she is. A killer. A manipulator. Someone who's destroyed dozens of lives in pursuit of her own agenda. Protecting her serves no one. Except the people whose crimes she's exposing. Alleged crimes, based on data that may or may not be admissible, collected by someone with every reason to fabricate evidence." The voice paused. "You're a smart man, Commander. Think about what happens if you choose the hard path. Federal investigation, media circus, your career scrutinized, your decisions questioned. All for someone who's already proven she can't be trusted. I've heard enough. 6 hours, that's all we ask. Take your people off station. Go to Reykjavik. Get breakfast. File a report. And when you return, the problem is solved. No one remembers your name. No one questions your judgment. Life goes on. And if I refuse, then we'll be disappointed. And disappointed people make poor decisions. Think about Dr. Chen, Petty Officer Nash, Commander Voss, all good people. All following your lead. Ask yourself if protecting one assassin is worth risking their lives." The line went dead. Rourke sat in the darkness, phone still pressed to his ear, feeling the weight of everything. They were right about one thing. Mara was dangerous, unpredictable, and staying between her and the people hunting her put everyone at risk. But they were wrong about something more important. He'd taken an oath. And that oath didn't come with exceptions for convenience. He dressed fast, found Voss already awake in her office. "You got the call too," he said. She nodded. 30 minutes ago. Offshore account, 6 hours, resolution guaranteed. You considering it?" "I'm considering that we have 28 personnel on this station. Most of them support staff, cooks, maintenance, people who signed up to refuel aircraft, not fight corporate assassins." She looked at him. "What's the moral calculus there, Ethan? How many lives is one woman worth? How many crimes do we ignore before we stop being the good guys?" "Don't give me philosophy. Give me options. We reinforce. Call in every asset available. Turn this place into a fortress and dare them to try. That's not an option. That's a death wish. Then we move her. Now. Get her to Reykjavik before... The window exploded. Not from gunfire, from air pressure. A helicopter passed so low over the building that the rotor wash blew out every window facing south. Alarms screamed. Red lights spun. Voss grabbed her radio. All personnel, emergency protocol Alpha. This is not a drill. Hostile aircraft inbound. Rourke was already running. He found Mara exactly where he'd left her, standing at her window, watching the helicopter circle back for another pass. They're not waiting 6 hours, she said. How did you... I didn't, but they're predictable. Offer a bribe, threaten if refused, then attack while everyone's still processing. She grabbed her rifle. How many birds? One that I saw. There'll be 3. One's a distraction. 2 more landing strike teams at multiple points. She moved to the door. Where's your strongest defensive position? We don't have one. This is a logistics facility, not a combat outpost. Then we make one. Now! They ran. Voss joined them in the hallway, already coordinating over radio. Personnel scrambling. Lights flickering. The sound of rotor blades getting closer. Communications room, Voss said. Reinforced walls, single entry point, backup power. Too obvious, they'll hit it first. Mara checked corners as they moved. Maintenance section, below ground, multiple exits, harder to breach. That puts us away from communications. Communications are how they tracked you. Going dark might be an advantage. A second helicopter appeared, then a third. Fast ropes deployed, figures in black descending like spiders. Mara stopped, counted. 18 operators, maybe 20. Professional insertion. They're not playing games this time. How do we fight that? We don't. We survive it. She looked at Rourke. Get everyone to maintenance, barricade. Stay quiet. Let them search. When they bunch up looking for you, I thin the herd. You can't take 20 trained operators alone. I don't have to take all of them, just enough that the cost exceeds their contract. She chambered around. Trust me, I've done this before. When? Syria, 2019. Similar situation. Survived 48 hours against superior numbers. They gave up when I killed their team lead and 2 of their medics. The casual way she said it made Rourke's skin crawl. You're not doing this alone. I am, because you have people to protect and I don't. She handed him a radio. Channel 7, encrypted. If things go bad, I'll signal. Otherwise, stay down and stay quiet. Before he could argue, she disappeared into the shadows. Just gone, like she'd never been there. Voss grabbed his arm. We need to move. Now. They moved. The maintenance section was exactly what Mara said. Below ground, concrete walls, multiple corridors branching into storage rooms and utility spaces. Voss positioned personnel efficiently. Medical staff in the deepest room, armed security at choke points, support staff in between. 26 people, holding their breath, waiting. Above them, the sound of boots. Systematic, professional, clearing rooms with tactical precision. Chen sat next to Rourke, hands shaking. We're going to die down here. No, we're not. You can't know that. I know she's up there, and I know she's very good at staying alive. The radio on Channel 7 crackled. Mara's voice, barely a whisper. First contact in 30 seconds. East wing. 4 operators. Stay quiet. Rourke held his breath. Counted. At 28 seconds, a suppressed shot echoed through the building. Then another. Then silence. Mara's voice again. 2 down, 2 retreating. They're calling it in. Above them, the footsteps changed. Faster, more urgent, converging. She was drawing them, creating chaos, forcing them to react instead of execute their plan. 6 moving to east wing. Good. Bunching up. Another shot. Make that 5. Chen stared at the radio. She's narrating her kills. She's keeping us informed. That's not normal. Nothing about her is normal. 3 minutes of silence. Then, they've split into 4-man teams covering more ground. Smart, but predictable. A burst of automatic fire. Much longer than before. Someone was panicking. They're scared, using suppression fire, wasting ammunition. Mara sounded almost amused. Down to 14, maybe 15. Hard to confirm from this angle. Voss keyed her radio. Vance, what's your position? Mobile, 3rd floor. They're trying to pin me. Won't work. I know this building better than they do now. How is that possible? You've been here 3 days? I spent 6 hours yesterday memorizing the layout from security footage, every corridor, every room, every sight line. Pause. They're moving again, going quiet, trying to bait me into... The explosion was massive. The entire building shook. Dust rained from the ceiling. Someone screamed. Radio silence. 10 seconds. 20. Vance! Rourke keyed the radio. Mara, respond. Nothing. Mara! Static, then her voice. Tight, strained. I'm hit, not critical, but they collapsed the stairwell. I'm cut off on 3. Can you get down? Not easily, and they know it. 4 of them moving to seal exits. She coughed. Okay, new plan. I need a distraction. What kind? The kind where someone makes noise at the south entrance and draws 2 of them away. Think you can manage that? Rourke looked at Voss. She shook her head hard. He keyed the radio anyway. I can. Ethan, no. Voss grabbed for the radio. If I don't, she dies. If she dies, they sweep this building and find us. We can hold... Against 15 trained operators? With mostly unarmed personnel? We can't. You know it. Patterson stepped forward. I'll go with you, sir. Patterson, with respect, sir, shut up and take the help. Rourke felt something shift. These people, his people, ready to follow him into something that might kill them all. Stay behind me. Shoot only if I engage. And if things go sideways, run. Don't be a hero. Same to you, sir. They moved fast. Upstairs, through corridors Mara had cleared, bodies in black tactical gear sprawled at intervals. Each one a headshot, precise, professional. She wasn't exaggerating her skills. They reached the south entrance. Rourke checked the radio. In position. Good. On my signal, shoot out the window. Make it loud. Make it sloppy. Then get flat. Copy. 5 seconds of silence. Now. Rourke fired 3 rounds into the reinforced glass. It spiderwebbed, but didn't shatter. He fired 3 more. Patterson joined in. The noise was deafening. Through the damaged window, Rourke saw 2 figures in black tactical gear turn. Start moving toward the sound. Flat. Now. They dropped. 2 suppressed shots from somewhere above. Both hostiles fell. Clear. Nice work. Now get back to safety before I have to save you again. They ran, adrenaline making everything sharp, every shadow a threat, every sound amplified. Halfway back, Patterson grabbed his arm. Sir, movement. 3 operators, coming from the west corridor, not from the team Mara was hunting. A different group, looking for the source of the gunfire. Looking for them. Rourke raised his weapon. Patterson did the same. U.S. Navy! Rourke shouted. Stand down! The operators didn't hesitate. They opened fire. The corridor exploded with muzzle flash and noise. Rourke and Patterson dove behind a support pillar. Rounds sparked off concrete, chewed through drywall. Patterson returned fire. 3-round bursts, textbook. But the operators had better cover, better armor, better training. We're pinned, Rourke keyed the radio. Mara, west corridor, 3 contacts. We need... I know, I'm coming. 30 seconds of continuous fire. Rourke's ears rang. His hands shook. This was different from rescue operations. Different from training. This was people trying to kill him, and he was trying not to die. Then silence. Not gradual, sudden, like someone flipped a switch. Rourke risked a look. All 3 operators down. Mara stood at the far end of the corridor, rifle still raised, breathing hard. Blood soaked her left sleeve. I said get to safety. We tried. Try harder. She moved to the bodies, checking them quickly. They're adapting, using your fire to triangulate positions. You can't engage again. Understand? You're wounded. I've had worse. She pulled a medical kit from one of the bodies, wrapped her arm quickly. Graze, hurts like hell, but I'll live. How many are left? 8, maybe 9, but they're rattled. Lost half their team in 20 minutes. That changes psychology. Makes people conservative. Or desperate. Also true. She looked at him. Really looked. You shouldn't be here. Neither should you. I chose this. You didn't. I chose to pull you from that ocean. Everything after is consequence. She almost smiled. You're either very brave or very stupid. My crew says stupid. Your crew is probably right. She moved toward the stairs. Get back to your people. This isn't over. He watched her go. Limping slightly. Rifle held with the kind of familiarity that came from years of use. A killer. Absolutely. But maybe not a monster. The next 20 minutes were hell. Rourke and Patterson made it back to the maintenance section. Voss met them with barely controlled rage. You could have been killed! But we weren't, and Mara's still operational. For how long? She's one person, Ethan. One injured person against... The radio crackled. 7 left. They're consolidating, regrouping at the north landing pad. Extracting? Negative. Bringing in reinforcements. I count 2 more birds inbound. ETA 3 minutes. Rourke felt the situation slide. How many? Can't tell. But if they're calling for backup, they're planning final assault. Overwhelming force, no more tactics, just volume. Voss grabbed the radio. We need to evacuate, now. Where? They control the landing zones, the dock, every exit. Mara's breathing was labored. Only option is to hold until your reinforcements arrive. ETA on that is 40 minutes. Then we need to survive 40 minutes. Against how many? Pause. 20. Maybe 25 with the new arrivals. The math was impossible. They all knew it. Chen spoke up. What if we surrender? Just give them what they want? They want all of us dead, Mara said. I'm just the primary target. You're witnesses. Complications. They won't leave anyone alive to tell the story. You don't know that. I absolutely do, because I've been on missions exactly like this. Rules of engagement are simple. No survivors, no evidence, no complications. Her voice softened slightly. I'm sorry, but this ends one way or another. Either they die or we do. Rourke looked at the faces around him. Young, scared, people who'd signed up to serve their country, not fight shadow wars in Arctic facilities. Mara, what do you need? Time and trust. You have both. Then listen carefully. I'm going to do something very loud, very visible. It's going to draw every operator in this facility to one location. When that happens, you move. All of you. Fast. To the East Vehicle Depot. There's a transport truck with keys in the ignition. You drive. Don't stop. Don't wait for me. Just go. What are you going to do? Something I swore I'd never do again. She paused. But desperate times. Mara, 3 minutes. Then run. Understand? The radio went dead. Voss looked at him. Do we trust her? Do we have a choice? They waited, every second feeling like an hour. Personnel gathered equipment, weapons, medical supplies, ready to move. Above them, the sound of new helicopters landing. Voices, commands. A lot of people. Then the alarm. Not the facility alarm. Something else. High-pitched, electronic, coming from the north wing. Rourke recognized it from training. Proximity alert. The kind used on high-value targets, the kind that meant a bomb. Every operator in the building would respond, had to respond, because ignoring a bomb threat was how entire teams died. She's bluffing, Patterson said. Is she? Voss asked. Nobody answered. The radio crackled. Move. Now. They moved. 26 people running through corridors, trying to stay quiet, failing. But it didn't matter, because every hostile in the facility was moving north, toward the alarm, toward whatever Mara had created. They reached the vehicle depot, found the truck exactly where she said, keys in the ignition, tank full. Voss started loading people, fast, efficient. Rourke stood at the door, watching, waiting. Sir, we need to go. Not without her. She said, don't wait. I'm not leaving her. Patterson grabbed his arm. Sir, with respect, she gave us an order, and she's right. We need to... The explosion cut him off. Not north wing, not where the alarm had been. South wing, where the helicopters had landed, where the operators had staged. The entire building shook. Windows shattered. Debris rained down. Then a second explosion. Bigger. Fuel depot. Mara had blown the fuel depot. The flames were visible through every window, orange and red painting the gray dawn. Rourke keyed his radio. Mara, status! Nothing. Mara, respond. Static, then her voice, barely audible. Told you? Very loud. Where are you? Roof. North side. Can't get down. We're coming. No, you're leaving, like I said. I'm not abandoning you. Not abandoning, trusting. She coughed. Wet. Wrong. I bought you 40 minutes. Use them. Get your people safe. You're wounded. I'm tactical. There's a difference. Pause. Ethan, they're regrouping. Coming for me. If you don't leave now, I did this for nothing. He felt torn, every instinct screaming to go back, to help, but she was right. His people. His responsibility. I'm sending help, soon as we're clear. Appreciated, but I'll be fine. I'm always fine. The confidence in her voice felt forced, like she was trying to convince herself. Mara, go, please. The radio went silent. Voss was already behind the wheel. Ethan, now. He climbed in. The truck lurched forward, out of the depot, into the cold morning. Behind them, the facility burned, smoke rising into pale sky, the sound of gunfire, sporadic, distant. And on the roof, one woman with a rifle, holding off an army. They made it 6 kilometers before Chen spoke. We left her to die. Nobody responded. She saved us, and we left her. She told us to, Voss said, but her voice carried no conviction. Rourke stared out the window, watching the facility shrink in the distance, calculating. How long before their reinforcements arrived? 30 minutes. Maybe less if they'd scrambled when the alarms hit. How long could Mara hold? Unknown. She was wounded, outnumbered, running out of ammunition. How long before she became another casualty in a war nobody would admit was happening? He grabbed the radio. Different channel. Emergency frequency. Any U.S. military assets? This is Lieutenant Commander Ethan Rourke, call sign Sierra Victor 1. Declaring emergency at Naval Support Activity South Iceland. Hostile force engaged. Immediate air support requested. Grid coordinates to follow. Static. Then a voice. Professional. Calm. Sierra Victor 1, this is Reaper 6. We're inbound to your location. ETA 12 minutes. Say status. Facility compromised. 20+ hostiles. One friendly still engaged. I need close air support. Now. Copy Sierra Victor 1. Can your friendly mark position? Rourke keyed Mara's channel. You still with me? Barely. What's happening? I called in air support. Reaper flight. 12 minutes out. Can you mark your position? Silence. Then a laugh. Pained, but real. You actually called in the Air Force? Marines, actually, but yeah. That's probably against protocol. Everything about this is against protocol. He paused. Can you mark? IR strobe. My vest. I'll activate it. Do it. And Mara, stay alive. That's an order. Not technically your subordinate. Today you are. So that's an order. Another laugh. Weaker this time. Copy. Commander. The radio went quiet. Voss looked at him. You just committed military assets without authorization. Yeah. That's a court-martial offense. Probably. Was it worth it? He thought about Mara, wounded, alone, still fighting. Thought about the data she'd sent, the truth she'd exposed, the courage it took to turn against everything she'd been trained to be. Yeah, it was. The sound of jets screaming overhead was the most beautiful thing Rourke had ever heard. They watched from a safe distance as 2 FA-18S made gun runs on the facility. Not hitting the building, just the landing zones, the helicopters, anything that looked like an extraction point. The hostiles scattered, broke, ran for any cover they could find. And on the roof, a tiny IR strobe pulsed, marking one wounded woman as friendly. The Marines didn't hit near her position. They were precise, professional. Exactly what Rourke had been counting on. When the third helicopter tried to take off, one of the jets put a missile through its rotor assembly. It came apart in midair, crashed hard. After that, the remaining hostiles surrendered, just stopped. Threw down weapons. Raised hands. It was over in 4 minutes. Rourke grabbed the radio. Mara, status. Still here, watching the show. You really know how to make an entrance. That was the Marines. Marines, Air Force, whoever, I'm not picky. She coughed again. Think they'll give me a ride down? Stairs are compromised. They'll give you a ride to medical. You're bleeding. Only a little. Mara. Fine. Bleeding moderately. Happy? He smiled despite everything. Thrilled. Liar. The helicopter that extracted her was gentle, careful. They loaded her like precious cargo. Rourke met them at the field hospital. She was pale, bandaged, but alive. Her eyes found his. Told you I'd be fine. You almost died. Almost only counts in horseshoes. She winced as a medic adjusted her IV. How many did we lose? 4 from last night's attack, none from this one. So, 30 lives saved, minus 4. She did the math. Net 26. I'll take it. This isn't a ledger. Everything's a ledger. She looked at the ceiling. The data I sent. It's everywhere now. Can't be buried. Can't be spun. 17 documented kills, all connected to people who thought themselves untouchable. There'll be a trial. Multiple trials. Congressional hearings, federal investigations, international cooperation agreements. She smiled. It's going to be spectacular. You'll have to testify. I know. They'll come after you. Character assassination, legal challenges, everything they can throw. I know that too. She looked at him. But I have something they don't. What's that? Physics, math, evidence that can't lie, and a rifle that recorded everything with more precision than any human testimony could match. She closed her eyes. They can call me crazy, a killer, a traitor. Won't matter, because the numbers don't care about narratives. Rourke sat down next to her bed. What you did today, with the explosions, the diversion, you saved everyone. I saved myself. You all were just collateral benefit. I don't believe that. Believe what you want. But her voice was soft, almost gentle. They sat in silence for a while, the sound of activity outside. Investigators arriving, federal agents. The machinery of accountability grinding into motion. What happens now, he asked. Now, I recover, give depositions, testify when required, become the most protected witness in federal custody. She opened one eye. And you? Probably a court-martial for calling in unauthorized airstrikes. They won't court-martial you. You're a hero, saved a facility, protected personnel, stopped a terrorist attack. It wasn't terrorism. It will be once the story gets spun. Trust me. By tomorrow, Kestrel Group will be a rogue element. Their clients will deny everything. The government will take credit for stopping them. And you'll get a medal. I don't want a medal. Nobody who deserves one does. She shifted, grimacing. But you'll take it anyway, because refusing makes you look guilty, and you need to look innocent for what comes next, which is testifying, confirming my account, providing context as the officer who rescued me and witnessed the attacks. She looked at him. They'll need you, Ethan, to validate everything I'm saying, to be the credible voice when mine gets questioned. He understood then. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. This was just the beginning. I'll be there. I know you will. She smiled, that cold expression warming slightly. You're one of the good ones. That's rare. Before he could respond, a federal agent appeared at the door. Suit, badge, the look of someone who'd been awake for 30 hours. Commander Rourke, Special Agent Morris, FBI. I need to speak with you about the events of the past 48 hours. Rourke stood, looked back at Mara. She gave him a small nod. Permission or acknowledgement. I'll be back, he said. I'll be here. Not like I can go anywhere. She gestured at her IV. Literally tethered, he followed Morris out, into the machinery of investigation, of accountability, of justice, hopefully. Behind him, Mara Vance lay in a hospital bed, wounded but alive, having started something that couldn't be stopped. 17 names, 17 truths, and beneath them, something deeper. The kind of truth that didn't just change lives, it changed systems. 3 days later, the full scope became clear. Rourke sat in a secure briefing room in Reykjavik. Federal prosecutors, military investigators, intelligence analysts, all reviewing the data Mara had transmitted. The rifle logs were irrefutable. 17 confirmed kills, each one documented with atmospheric data, ballistic calculations, and GPS coordinates precise to within 3 meters. Cross-referenced with known deaths, they told a story prosecutors called unprecedented. Marcus Hale, defense contractor, killed by a 4,112-meter shot from a platform later identified as Mara's vessel. Cause of death officially listed as helicopter accident. Actual cause: .338 Lapua Magnum round through the engine block causing catastrophic failure. Thomas Brennan, pharmaceutical CEO, died in a car crash. Actual cause: tire shot out at 2,847 meters, causing loss of control on a mountain road. Sarah Vickers, investigative journalist. Suicide by hanging. Actual cause. Sniper shot through her apartment window at 1,923 meters while she was standing on a chair changing a light bulb. Staged to look like suicide. On and on. 17 names. 17 murders made to look like accidents, suicides, natural causes. Each one connected to whistleblowers, investigators, or people who'd threatened to expose corruption at the highest levels. Each one ordered by the same network of corporate executives, government officials, and military contractors. The prosecutor, a woman named Catherine Chen, no relation, laid it out with clinical precision. This isn't just murder for hire. It's systematic elimination of threats to an organized conspiracy spanning 3 countries and approximately $40 billion in fraudulent contracts. How high does it go? Rourke asked. High enough that we've already had 2 witnesses recant their testimony after midnight phone calls. High enough that I'm sleeping in a different hotel every night. Chen looked at the files. But we have Mara's testimony. We have the rifle logs. And we have physics. Can't intimidate math. Can she survive long enough to testify? That's the question. Federal protection only goes so far when you're dealing with people who have unlimited resources and motivation to silence her. What's the timeline? Preliminary hearings start in 6 weeks. Full trial in 3 months. Assuming we can keep everyone alive that long. Rourke thought about Mara. Still recovering, still defiant, still calculating odds like a chess grandmaster. She'll make it. She's survived worse. Has she? Chen pulled up a classified file. Because according to her military record, the parts we've been able to access, she shouldn't exist. Training records redacted. Assignment history classified. The only thing we know for certain is that she went through special operations training, then disappeared into a program so black it doesn't have a name. Well, what kind of program? The kind that builds human weapons. Long-range elimination specialists. People who can do what normal snipers can't even imagine. Chen closed the file. She's not just good, Commander. She's the product of millions of dollars in research, training, and psychological conditioning. They created her, refined her, made her perfect. Then she turned against them. Not immediately. She worked for years, took contracts, built a reputation, made them very rich. Chen paused. But somewhere along the way, she started documenting, recording, building a case file while they thought she was just being thorough. Why? We don't know. She won't say. But my guess, she saw something that made her realize she wasn't eliminating threats. She was silencing truth. Chen looked at Rourke. That's when she became dangerous. Not as a weapon, as a witness. The weight of it settled. Mara wasn't just exposing crimes. She was dismantling the system that created her, burning down the very infrastructure that made her possible. When can I see her? Tomorrow, after we finish her deposition. But Commander? Chen's expression softened slightly. Don't expect the same person you pulled from the ocean. What we're asking her to do, reliving every kill, justifying every decision, becoming a public face for something this dark, it changes people. Even people like her. He left the briefing knowing one thing with certainty. This was far from over, and the hardest part hadn't even started yet. The safe house sat 40 kilometers outside Reykjavik. Former fishing lodge, stone walls, small windows. The kind of place that looked scenic in summer and brutal in winter. Right now, it was brutal. Rourke arrived with 2 federal marshals. The security was visible. Cameras, checkpoints, armed guards at every approach. What wasn't visible was probably worse. Inside, Mara sat at a table reviewing documents. Her left arm was still bandaged. Her face had lost the gray pallor but gained new lines. Fatigue, maybe, or the weight of what was coming. She didn't look up when he entered. They told you not to come. They suggested I didn't need to. Same thing. She marked something in the margin of a page. You're risking association. When this goes public, everyone connected to me becomes a target. Character witnesses, supporters, people who vouched for my credibility. I'm already associated, pulled you from the ocean, called in airstrikes. Pretty deep in at this point. She finally looked up. Fair point. Catherine Chen appeared from an adjacent room, laptop under one arm, coffee in the other hand. She looked worse than Mara. Commander, didn't expect you. Wanted to check in, see how things were progressing. Progressing is one word for it. Chen set down the laptop. We've had 3 delays already. Defense attorneys filing motions, jurisdictional challenges, attempts to suppress evidence. And that's just the legal warfare. The public relations assault hasn't even started. What kind of assault? The kind where they paint Mara as an unreliable mercenary with mental health issues who fabricated evidence to cover her own crimes. Chen pulled up a document. We've already seen drafts of the defense strategy. It's comprehensive and brutal. Mara turned a page. Let them come. I've got math on my side. Math doesn't play well on cable news. Narratives do, and their narrative is compelling. Unstable contractor goes rogue, creates elaborate revenge scheme, falsifies data to frame innocent people. Except the data isn't falsified. Prove it to a jury that doesn't understand ballistics or atmospheric physics. Prove it to people who just want a simple story. Chen rubbed her eyes. We'll win eventually. The science is solid, but it's going to be ugly. Rourke watched Mara's expression, unchanged, like she'd already calculated this outcome years ago. You knew this would happen. Of course. It's what I'd do if I were defending them. She closed the file. Attack credibility. Muddy the facts. Make everything complicated enough that reasonable doubt becomes inevitable. Then why go through with it? Because the alternative is letting them win. And I'm done letting people like that win. The conviction in her voice was absolute. No hesitation, no doubt. Chen's phone buzzed. She checked it, swore quietly. What? Another witness just recanted. That's 5 now, all with the same story. They were mistaken, misremembered, under stress when they gave their original statements. Bought or threatened. Does it matter? Results the same. Our case is getting weaker. No, it's not. Mara stood, moved to a secure laptop on the far table. You're thinking about this wrong. Traditional witnesses are liabilities. They can be intimidated, bribed, discredited. But my rifle can't be threatened. The data can't change its story. Physics doesn't recant. She pulled up a file. Ballistic analysis. Wind vectors. Temperature gradients. All feeding into calculations that resulted in confirmed kills. This is what wins. Not testimony. Evidence. Irrefutable. Reproducible. Independently verifiable. She looked at Chen. You need to stop fighting like a traditional prosecutor. This isn't a traditional case. Then how should I fight? Like a scientist. Present the data. Let experts reconstruct the shots. Show that the only way these calculations work is if someone with my training from those exact positions at those exact times made those shots. She pulled up another screen. I've been documenting my methodology. Every variable, every adjustment, everything I considered before pulling the trigger. Any competent ballistics expert can verify it. Chen studied the screen, understanding dawning. You're giving them your playbook. I'm giving them proof. The playbook is just context. They'll argue you fabricated the data, that you created fake logs to support a revenge fantasy. Then let them explain how I faked atmospheric conditions that match historical weather data, how I fabricated GPS coordinates that correspond to verified locations, how I manufactured ballistic evidence that aligns with autopsy reports from 17 separate investigations. Mara's smile was cold. They can argue all they want. Math doesn't care. Rourke felt the shift. This wasn't just testimony, this was warfare by information. And Mara had been preparing for it longer than anyone realized. How long have you been planning this? 3 years. Since I realized the contracts weren't about eliminating threats. They were about silencing truth. She closed the laptop. Every shot after that was dual purpose. Complete the mission, document the crime, build a case they couldn't bury. That's incredibly risky. Living is risky. I chose to make the risk count for something. Chen was reading through the documentation. Her expression changed. This is comprehensive, obsessively detailed. I'm good at what I do, including building evidence trails. The defense will call it premeditation. It is premeditation, I'm not denying that, but premeditation of exposure, not murder. The murders happened regardless. I just made sure they'd be documented. The logic was airtight, brutal, but airtight. We'll need expert witnesses, Chen said, ballistics specialists who can explain this to a jury, meteorologists to verify the atmospheric data, GPS analysts to confirm the coordinates. I've got a list. People who can't be bought, academics, government researchers, people whose careers depend on accuracy, not loyalty. You've thought of everything. I've had 3 years to think, and nothing else to do while I was eliminating people who threatened the network. She looked at Rourke. You're wondering if I feel remorse? He hadn't asked, but yeah, he was wondering. Do you? For the killing? Some. Mostly for the early ones, before I understood what I was really doing. For the documentation? No, that was necessary. That was choosing to make something evil serve a purpose. That's a justification. It's reality. I can't undo what I did. Can't bring those people back. But I can make sure their deaths meant something. That the truth they threatened to expose actually gets exposed. She paused. That's not redemption. It's just math, making the ledger balance differently. Chen's phone rang. She answered, listened, her expression darkening. Understood. I'll handle it. She hung up. We have a problem. Defense just filed a motion to exclude all rifle data as inadmissible, claiming chain of custody issues. What issues? The rifle was in your possession for 3 days before federal agents secured it. They're arguing contamination, that you or your personnel could have altered the data. Rourke felt his stomach drop. That's insane. We barely touched it. But you could have. That's enough for reasonable doubt. Chen pulled up the motion on her laptop. They've got affidavits from technical experts saying the data storage is vulnerable to manipulation. That without continuous custody, its integrity can't be verified. Mar's expression didn't change. Good thing I anticipated that. Both of them looked at her. How? The rifle has secondary storage, encrypted, cloud synced, every shot automatically backed up to a secure server the moment atmospheric conditions stabilized enough for transmission. She pulled out her phone, navigated to a file. I've got independent backups dating back to the first shot. Timestamps match, data matches, and the server logs show no access except from my rifle. You had cloud backup for your assassination records? I had redundancy for my evidence. Professional paranoia. She showed them the authentication logs. These files were uploaded in real time, before anyone knew I existed, before I was pulled from the ocean. They can't argue I manipulated them because I didn't have opportunity. Chen read through the documentation. This is actually brilliant. It proves the data existed before federal custody, before anyone could tamper with it. It also proves I was planning to expose this for years, which helps establish intent. Mara put the phone away. They'll try other angles, but chain of custody isn't one of them. Rourke watched her. This woman, this calculating, methodical, absolutely terrifying woman who'd turned assassination into accountability. You've been 10 steps ahead the entire time. 12, actually, but who's counting? She moved to the window, checked the sightlines automatically. Old habits. The question isn't whether we can prove the crimes. We can. The question is whether we can survive long enough to present the evidence. Federal protection is good, but not perfect, and they've got resources I can't match long term. She looked at Chen. How many witnesses have you lost? Lost? As in killed? None. Yet. Yet is doing a lot of work in that sentence. Mara crossed her arms. They're being patient, letting legal challenges weaken your case first. But when that stops working, they'll escalate, and federal marshals won't stop a determined team. You stopped them in Iceland. Barely, and I had home field advantage, knew the terrain, limited their approach vectors. Here? She gestured at the windows. Too many angles, too many sight lines. This place is defensible against opportunistic attacks, not against what they'll send when they get serious. Then what do you suggest? Move me, frequently, unpredictably. Never sleep in the same location twice. Vary routes. Randomize security details. Make targeting me expensive enough that the cost exceeds the benefit. Chen shook her head. That's not sustainable. We've got months before trial. Then we accelerate the timeline, push for early hearings, get the evidence on record before they can eliminate me. Even if I don't make it to trial, the data will. The casual way she discussed her own death made Rourke's chest tighten. You're not dying. Statistically, I probably am. The number of people motivated to kill me versus the resources available to protect me, math isn't favorable. Stop calculating and start surviving. I am surviving by accepting reality and planning around it. She looked at him. This isn't pessimism. It's risk assessment, and right now the risk is high. Then we lower it. How? By going public, making you visible. Hard to quietly eliminate someone the world knows about. Chen considered. Media strategy, press conferences, interviews. Make her a public figure instead of a secret witness. Exactly. Turn her into someone whose death would raise questions, create scrutiny they can't afford. Mara was quiet for a moment, calculating. That's actually smart. Increases my survival odds by maybe 15%. But it also exposes me to different threats. Public harassment, coordinated smear campaigns, death threats from random people who believe the defense narrative. Better than the alternative. Maybe. She looked out the window again. But it means giving up anonymity permanently. No quiet disappearance after trial. No new identity. Just public forever. You were prepared to die. Is being public worse? She laughed, dry but genuine. You make a fair point. Chen was already making notes. I'll coordinate with the U.S. Attorney's Office, schedule a press conference. Limited disclosure, confirm the investigation, acknowledge the witness, don't reveal specifics, just enough to make her visible. When? 48 hours. Gives us time to prepare talking points and security. Mara nodded. Do it. But make sure the message is clear. I'm not a victim. I'm a witness. There's a difference. Understood. The press conference was scheduled for Thursday. By Wednesday, the media had already caught wind. Rourke watched the news coverage from the safe house. Speculation ran wild. Anonymous sources. Leaked details. The story taking shape before the official narrative could form. Mystery witness and defense contractor scandal. Former military operative central to federal investigation sources. Evidence includes unprecedented rifle technology. Some outlets were careful, factual. Others went sensational, but all of them focused on one thing: the 17 confirmed kills. Mara watched with detached interest. They're framing me as either a hero or a monster. No middle ground. Which do you want to be? Neither. I want to be someone who exposed crimes, but that's not sexy enough for headlines. Chen entered with her own tablet. We've got a bigger problem. Defense just went public with their counter-narrative, press release an hour ago. She pulled up the statement. Rourke read it. Felt his blood pressure spike. The individuals named in this investigation are innocent victims of an elaborate hoax perpetrated by a disturbed former contractor with a documented history of violence and instability. The so-called evidence is fabricated data designed to support baseless accusations. We will vigorously defend our clients and expose this fraud for what it is. They're calling you a fraud. Of course they are. It's the only play they have. Mara didn't seem bothered. Let them. When we present the actual evidence, their credibility collapses. That's assuming people believe evidence over narrative. People believe what makes sense, and physics makes sense. Conspiracy theories about elaborate hoaxes don't. Chen wasn't convinced. You're underestimating their PR machine. They've got firms, researchers, people whose entire job is shaping public opinion. And we've got truth, which is harder to shape. Mara stood. But fine. If they want to fight in public, let's fight in public. Release the data. Not everything. Just enough to show it's real. Make them defend the indefensible. That's risky. Revealing evidence before trial is unconventional. But so is everything about this case. She looked at Chen. You're thinking like a prosecutor who wants to win in court. I'm thinking like someone who wants to survive long enough to testify. Those are different objectives. They should be the same objective. In theory. But we're not operating in theory. We're operating in reality. And in reality, my life expectancy improves if people understand what I'm exposing. Rourke intervened. Compromise. Release enough data to prove it's legitimate. Not enough to reveal trial strategy. Just proof of concept. Chen thought about it. One shot. Fully documented. All the data. Let independent experts verify it. Which shot? Marcus Hale. The 4,112-meter kill. It's the most dramatic, the hardest to dismiss. And it's already public record that he's dead. Mara nodded slowly. That works. It's my best shot, literally and figuratively. If experts can verify that calculation, it validates everything else. Agreed. I'll coordinate the release with the press conference. Chen made notes. But Mara, you'll need to speak. On camera. Let people see you, hear your voice, make you real. I'm not good at public speaking. You're good at precision. Use that. Be direct, factual. Let the evidence speak and you just present it. Like a briefing. Exactly like a briefing. Thursday morning came cold and clear. The press conference was held at a federal building in Reykjavik. Secure location. Controlled access. But with enough media presence to ensure coverage. Rourke watched from the side. Chen stood at the podium. Mara sat to her left. Calm. Expressionless. Like she was waiting for a target to appear. Chen's opening statement was precise. Confirmed the investigation. Acknowledged 17 deaths. introduced Mara as a cooperating witness with unique knowledge of the alleged conspiracy. Then she yielded to Mara. For 5 seconds, Mara just sat there, looking at the cameras, the reporters, the machinery of public scrutiny. Then she stood, moved to the podium, adjusted the microphone with the same precision she used for rifle adjustments. My name is Mara Vance. For 7 years, I worked as a long-range elimination specialist. I took contracts from individuals and organizations who wanted specific people dead. I was very good at my job. Blunt, direct. No apologies. 3 years ago, I realized the people hiring me weren't eliminating threats. They were silencing witnesses, whistleblowers, journalists, researchers, anyone who threatened to expose corruption at the highest levels of government and corporate leadership. She paused. Let that sink in. I continued taking contracts, but I also began documenting every shot, every environmental condition, every calculation, building evidence that could prove what I was doing and who was ordering it. A reporter shouted a question. Chen raised a hand. Questions after the statement. Mara continued. The rifle I used has onboard diagnostics. It records atmospheric data, GPS coordinates, ballistic calculations, and results for every shot fired. This data is independently verifiable. It can't be faked. And it proves, with mathematical certainty, that 17 people died by precision rifle fire from distances ranging from 1,400 to 4,112 meters. She pulled out a tablet, displayed a calculation on the screen behind her. This is Marcus Hale, defense contractor. Died 3 weeks ago in what was reported as a helicopter accident. The official investigation concluded mechanical failure. The actual cause was a 338 Lapua Magnum round fired from 4,112 meters that severed his helicopter's tail rotor control linkage. The calculation filled the screen: wind speed, temperature, air pressure, Coriolis effect, projectile drop, every variable accounted for. This shot is reproducible. Any ballistics expert can verify the math. The physics don't lie. And if this calculation is accurate, which it is, then Marcus Hale was murdered, and I'm the one who killed him. The room exploded. Questions, shouts, camera flashes. Chen stepped in. We're releasing this data to independent researchers for verification. When they confirm its accuracy, and they will, it establishes a baseline for the other 16 cases. Thank you. They walked off. Security immediately surrounded Mara, moving her through back corridors into a waiting vehicle. Rourke caught up. That was risky? Inflammatory? Possibly career-ending? Effective. She almost smiled. We'll see. Could go either way. The verification came faster than expected. By Friday afternoon, 3 independent ballistics experts had confirmed the calculation. The math worked. The shot was possible. And the environmental data matched historical records for that exact location and time. One expert, a professor from M1T, went on record. This isn't just accurate. It's the most precisely documented long-range shot I've ever analyzed. The level of detail is extraordinary. You can't fake this kind of data. The physics simply doesn't allow it. Defense attorneys immediately challenged, filed motions, called it inadmissible. But the public narrative had shifted. The data was real, which meant the conspiracy was real, which meant 17 people had been murdered to protect it. Chen called Mara that evening. We're getting cooperation. Witnesses who recanted are suddenly remembering details. People who were scared are finding courage. The tide is turning. For now. They'll adapt, change tactics, but it buys us time. How much time? Enough to get to trial. Maybe, if we're lucky and I stay alive. Always with the optimism. Always with the realism. Mara checked her weapon, a new rifle provided by federal marshals. Not as good as her original, but functional. How long until preliminary hearings? 3 weeks. Judges fast-tracking based on public interest and witness security concerns. Smart. The longer this drags, the more opportunities they have to eliminate me. Rourke was sitting across from her. You keep talking about dying like it's inevitable. It's probable. There's a difference. Not a comforting one. I'm not trying to comfort you. I'm trying to prepare you. She set down the rifle. If I don't make it to trial, the data still exists, the evidence still stands. Make sure Chen knows how to present it without me. You're going to make it. Statistically, stop hiding behind statistics. You've survived impossible odds multiple times. You'll survive this too. She looked at him. Really looked. Why do you care so much? The question caught him off guard. Because you're doing the right thing, and people doing the right thing shouldn't die for it. People die for doing the right thing all the time. That's how the world works. Then we change how the world works. She laughed, quiet, almost sad.
You actually believe that? Yeah, I do. That's naive, but kind of admirable. She stood, moved to the window. Outside, federal marshals patrolled, visible deterrent. I haven't had someone believe in me for a long time. It's strange. Get used to it, because you're not doing this alone anymore. I've always been alone. Not anymore. The silence stretched, comfortable somehow. Two people who'd been thrown together by impossible circumstances finding something unexpected.
Trust, maybe. Or just recognition that some fights couldn't be won solo. The preliminary hearing started on schedule. The courtroom was packed. Media, federal agents, defense attorneys in expensive suits, and at the center, Mara Vance, looking small, vulnerable, nothing like the precision killer she'd described, which was exactly the defense's strategy. Their lead attorney, Harrison Blake, legendary for getting guilty people acquitted, stood for opening arguments. Ladies and gentlemen, what we have here is not a witness, it's a fantasy. A disturbed individual who has constructed an elaborate narrative to justify her own criminal actions and deflect blame onto successful, law-abiding citizens. He gestured at Mara. Look at her. Does she look like a victim? Or does she look like someone capable of cold, calculated murder? Someone who admits, on camera no less, to killing 17 people. The prosecution wants you to believe she's a hero, a whistleblower. But she's neither. She's a confessed assassin attempting to escape accountability by claiming she was just following orders. Where have we heard that before? Rourke watched Mara's face, unchanged, like Blake was reading a weather report. Chen stood for rebuttal. The defense wants you to believe that physics can be faked, that atmospheric data can be fabricated, that GPS coordinates can be manufactured. They want you to ignore mathematics because mathematics is inconvenient for their clients. She pulled up the HAL calculation. This shot, 4,112 meters, independently verified by 3 ballistics experts. The defendant didn't just confess, she provided irrefutable proof. And that proof connects 17 deaths to 17 contracts ordered by people in this courtroom. Blake objected. Speculation. The alleged contracts have not been authenticated. They will be, along with financial records, communication intercepts, and testimony from the woman who executed them. Chen looked at Mara. Ms. Vance isn't hiding from her crimes. She's exposing the people who ordered them. There's a difference. The judge, an older woman with sharp eyes, called for a recess. During the break, Rourke found Mara in a secure room. You okay? Fine. Blake's good, but he's working with a bad hand. He called you a fantasist. He called me what his clients paid him to call me. It's just noise. She drank water. The data stands. That's what matters. Does it bother you being called those things? I've been called worse, usually right before I killed someone. She set down the cup. Words are just tactics. They're trying to make me emotional, reactive. Get me to say something stupid on the stand. Won't work. How can you be so calm? Because I've already accepted every possible outcome. Best case, I testify successfully and help convict 17 murderers. Worst case, I die, and the evidence convicts them anyway. Either way, they lose. I just have better survival odds in one scenario. That's bleak. That's strategic. She checked her watch. How long until we're back? 10 minutes. Good. I want to watch Blake work. He's expensive for a reason. Might learn something. The hearing lasted 3 days. Blake attacked credibility, questioned methodology, brought in defense experts who nitpicked the calculations. Chen countered with prosecution experts, meteorologists, GPS specialists, ballistics researchers, each one confirming what Mara had documented. The rifle data was real, the shots were possible, the deaths were murders. On the third day, Blake played his final card, a psychiatrist who'd reviewed Mara's military records. Vance shows classic signs of antisocial personality disorder, lack of empathy, superficial charm, calculated manipulation. She's not a whistleblower. She's a sociopath who's weaponized the legal system against perceived enemies. Chen cross-examined. Doctor, you've never met Ms. Vance, correct? Correct. My analysis is based on documented behavior and psychological profiles. Documented behavior, like saving 26 people during the Iceland facility attack? That could be self-preservation, or strategic manipulation to gain trust. Or it could be evidence that your diagnosis is wrong, that she's capable of empathy and self-sacrifice. Possible, but unlikely given the overall pattern. Chen smiled. No further questions. When it was Mara's turn to testify, the courtroom went silent. Chen led her through the basics, background, training, how she became a long-range specialist. Then the critical question, why did you start documenting? Mara looked directly at the jury. Because I realized I wasn't eliminating threats. I was eliminating truth-tellers. And I decided that if I was going to kill people, the least I could do was make sure their deaths meant something. What did you mean by that? I meant building a case, collecting evidence, making it impossible to deny what was happening, so that when I finally stopped, the system that created me would be exposed. Why stop at 17? Because Marcus Hale was the breaking point. His death was ordered to cover up fraud that would kill thousands through defective military equipment. I realized that no amount of money was worth being part of that. So you destroyed your ship and disappeared. I transmitted the data and let them think they'd killed me. Seemed safer that way. But they found you. They tried. Commander Rourke found me first. Blake stood for cross-examination. Ms. Vance, you admit to 17 murders. I admit to 17 executions under contract. Whether they're murders depends on your perspective. The law's perspective is clear. You killed people for money. That's murder for hire. The law's perspective will be determined by this court, not by your characterization. Blake smiled. You're very calm for someone facing multiple life sentences. I'm calm because I've accepted responsibility for what I did. I'm just making sure the people who ordered it accept theirs. Or you're calm because you're a sociopath incapable of genuine remorse. I'm calm because remorse doesn't change facts. I killed those people. That's true. I was paid to kill them. Also true. But I was paid by your clients. And that's the part you'd like everyone to forget. The courtroom stirred. Blake's smile faltered. You can't prove my clients ordered anything. I can prove they paid for it. I have financial records, communication logs, contract negotiations, all documented, all traceable. She leaned forward slightly. You're defending guilty people, Mr. Blake. We both know it. The only question is whether the jury will care more about my crimes or theirs. Blake tried to recover. Asked about mental health, about violence, about whether she enjoyed killing. Mara answered everything with the same flat precision. No emotion, no deflection, just facts. When it was over, Chen rested the prosecution's case. The judge took 2 hours to deliberate. When she returned, her expression was unreadable. After reviewing the evidence presented, this court finds sufficient cause to proceed to trial. The defendant's testimony, while troubling, is corroborated by physical evidence that cannot be easily dismissed. Mr. Blake, your clients will face charges of conspiracy to commit murder. Ms. Vance will face charges of murder for hire. Both cases will be tried simultaneously. Blake stood. Your Honor, we object to the joint trial. Our client's right to... Overruled. The cases are inextricably linked. Trying them separately would waste the court's time and confuse the jury. She looked at Mara. Ms. Vance, you will remain in federal custody pending trial. Bail is denied. Mara nodded, like she'd expected nothing different. Court adjourned. Outside, Chen looked exhausted but satisfied. We did it. We're going to trial. How long? 2 months, maybe 3. Judge wants to move fast. Rourke watched Mara being led away by marshals. She looked back once, gave a small nod, like she was saying goodbye. Or maybe just acknowledging the math. The odds of survival had improved, but they still weren't good. Chen followed his gaze. She's going to make it. The evidence is too strong. The public support is building. She's valuable alive. For now. That's all we need. Just now. Then trial. Then conviction. Then she disappears into witness protection and gets to live whatever life is left. You really believe that? I have to, because the alternative is unacceptable. She packed her briefcase. Go home, Commander. Get some rest. This is going to get worse before it gets better. He wanted to disagree. Wanted to believe the worst was over. But he'd seen Mara's calculations, understood her risk assessment, and the math said they were still in the danger zone. The question wasn't whether another attack would come. just when, and whether they'd survive it. The attack came on a Tuesday, not at the safe house, not during transport, during a routine evidence review at the federal building in downtown Reykjavik. Mara was in a conference room with Chen and two FBI analysts going through financial records that traced payments from corporate accounts to offshore shells. Boring work, tedious. The kind of thing that broke conspiracies, following money through layers of legitimate transactions until the pattern emerged. She noticed it first, the sound outside the window, too regular, too mechanical. Down! She grabbed Chen and pulled her to the floor just as the window exploded. Not gunfire, drone. Small quadcopter with an explosive payload attached. It detonated 3 feet inside the room. The blast was shaped, directional, designed to kill everyone at the table while minimizing collateral damage to the building. Professional, surgical. Exactly what Mara would have designed. The explosion threw her into the wall. Her ears rang. Vision blurred. She tasted copper. But she was moving. Training overriding pain. Checking Chen, alive, bleeding from her scalp, but conscious. The analysts, one dead, one groaning, probably internal injuries. Federal marshals burst through the door, weapons drawn, scanning for threats. Drone strike. Mara's voice sounded distant through the ringing. They're outside, probably 3, maybe 4 operators, vehicle nearby for extraction. How do you... Because it's what I'd do. Lock down the building, get aerial surveillance up. They'll try to confirm the kill before exfiltrating. One marshal grabbed his radio. The other moved to Chen, applying pressure to the wound. Mara stood, unsteady. Her left arm was definitely broken this time, bone visible through the burn. She ignored it. Give me a weapon. Ma'am, you need medical... I need a weapon before they send a second wave. Now. The marshal hesitated, then handed her his backup piece, a Glock 19. Not her preference, but functional. She moved to the shattered window, scanned the street below, crowd scattering, emergency vehicles responding. And there, 3 blocks south, a panel van, side door open, figure inside holding what looked like a controller. South 3 blocks, panel van, white, license plate. She squinted. Can't make it out. But that's your drone operator. How can you tell? Body position, posture. They're holding a controller and watching this building. She turned. You've got maybe 2 minutes before they realize the strike failed and initiate backup protocol. The marshal relayed the information. 2 minutes later, Icelandic police were converging on the van. The operator ran, got maybe 50 feet before being tackled. Inside the van, they found 2 more drones, both armed, both programmed with the same target coordinates. The conference room where Mara had been sitting. They wanted you very dead, the marshal said, helping her to a chair while paramedics arrived. They wanted certainty. 1 drone could fail, 3 ensures redundancy. She let the paramedic examine her arm, hissing when he touched the brake. How's Chen? Concussed, but stable. She's asking about you. Tell her I'm fine. You're not fine. Your arm is broken. I know, had worse. She looked at the dead analyst. Young guy, maybe 26. What was his name? Morrison? David Morrison. Mara closed her eyes, added another name to the ledger. You have family? Wife. No kids yet. The weight settled. Heavier than the previous 17, because this one was direct consequence, collateral damage from protecting her. I'm sorry. Not your fault. It absolutely is. He's dead because I was in this room. Because they were trying to kill me and he was in the blast radius. She opened her eyes. That's math. Simple, brutal, true. The paramedic was setting up for transport. We need to get you to a hospital. No hospital. Too exposed. Patch me here. Ma'am, you need surgery. Then bring a surgeon here. But I'm not leaving this building. Not until we know the perimeter is secure and they've accounted for every possible threat vector. The marshal stepped in. She's right. Hospital is predictable. They'll have secondary teams waiting. Fine, I'll call it in. But someone needs to stabilize her before she goes into shock. Mara felt the adrenaline wearing off. The pain coming through. Sharp. Immediate. She'd been hurt before. Shot twice. Stabbed once. Various training injuries, but this felt different. This felt like a message. A promise that they wouldn't stop. Couldn't stop. Because too much was at stake. And she was the only thing standing between them and freedom. They brought the surgeon to her. Set up a mobile OR in a secure room 3 floors down. Federal building wasn't designed for medical procedures, but people adapted when lives were on the line. The surgery took 4 hours, titanium plate, 14 screws, nerve damage they couldn't fully assess until swelling reduced. Mara woke up groggy, medicated, her arm in a cast that ran from shoulder to wrist. Chen was sitting next to the bed, bandage on her head, looking like she'd been through a war. "You saved my life." Mara's voice came out rough. "Yeah. Morrison's dead because you pulled me down instead of him." Morrison was farther from the window. Pulling him would have meant 2 deaths instead of 1. I made a calculation. You chose me over him. I chose higher survival probability. You were closer, lighter, easier to move. Mara shifted, regretted it, pain spiked. Don't make it more than it was. It was a choice. You made it in maybe half a second. Saved me. Not him. Chen, I appreciate whatever guilt you're processing, but I need you to focus. What's the status on the drone operator? Chen blinked, shifted mental gears. Talking. Gave up his team. 3 more arrests in the past 6 hours. Kestrel Group contractors. Same as Iceland. Clients? Lawyered up immediately, but we've got paper trails, financial records linking the payments to one of the 17, Richard Voss, telecommunications executive. He was number 8, died in a boating accident, fell overboard drunk, officially. Actually took a shot while standing on the deck of his yacht, 2,234 meters, moderate difficulty, clear weather, easy verification if anyone bothered to look. They're looking now. Autopsy records show a projectile wound that was misidentified as impact trauma from hitting the water. Chen pulled out her tablet. Voss's death triggered an inheritance dispute. Lots of paperwork, lots of documentation about his business dealings, including contracts with Hale Dynamics, which connects him to Hale, and the web grows. Chen rubbed her temples. 6 of the 17 are now directly linked through business relationships, financial transfers, shared corporate boards. It's a network, exactly like you said. How long until trial? Judge moved it up, 6 weeks. After today's attack, she's concerned about witness security. Wants this resolved before someone succeeds in killing you. A smart judge. Realistic judge. Chen looked at her. Mara, they're going to keep trying every day, every transport, every public appearance until either you're dead or they're convicted. I know. That doesn't scare you? Of course it scares me. But fear doesn't change math. Either I survive long enough to testify or I don't. Worrying about it doesn't improve the odds. You're the most frustrating person I've ever met. I get that a lot. Mara tried to sit up. Failed. Where's Rourke? Outside. He's been here since the attack, refusing to leave until you woke up. That's inefficient. He should be resting. He cares about you. That makes people inefficient. The concept felt foreign. People caring, people choosing to be present despite risk. Mara had spent 7 years eliminating emotional attachment. It made the work easier, made the calculations cleaner, but now, lying in a makeshift hospital bed with a shattered arm and people trying to kill her, the attachment didn't feel weak. It felt like the only thing keeping her human. Send him in. Chen stood. I'll give you privacy. But Mara, thank you for saving me, even if it was just mathematics. It wasn't just mathematics. I know, that's what makes it count. Mas, Rourke entered looking worse than she felt. Unshaven, eyes bloodshot, still in the same clothes from yesterday. You look terrible. You're one to talk, literally held together with metal. At least I have an excuse. She gestured at the chair. Sit. You're making me nervous standing there. He sat. How are you feeling? Like I got hit by a drone. You? Like I should have seen it coming. Nobody sees drones coming. That's why they're effective. She studied him. This isn't your fault. Morrison's widow disagrees. Morrison's widow is grieving. Grief makes people look for blame. Doesn't make the blame accurate. You're very logical about death. I've caused a lot of it. You learn to compartmentalize or you stop functioning. She paused. But I'm sorry. About Morrison. About all of this. If I just disappeared after Iceland, none of these people would be at risk. And 17 murders would go unpunished. Dozens more people would die when defective equipment gets deployed. The network would continue operating. He leaned forward. You did the right thing. Collateral damage doesn't change that. Easy to say when it's not your arm in a cast. I've had my share of consequences. comes with making hard choices. He pulled out his phone, showed her something. This came through an hour ago. Federal prosecutor in New York just indicted 4 more executives connected to the network, all based on your evidence. 4 more? Your data didn't just prove the 17 murders, it exposed the entire corruption chain. Procurement fraud, kickbacks, falsified safety reports. Hale wasn't an isolated case. He was the linchpin holding together a billion-dollar criminal enterprise. Mara read the indictment, felt something unfamiliar. Not satisfaction. Not exactly. More like completion. Like a calculation finally resolving correctly. So it's working. The exposure. It's working. People are talking. Whistleblowers are coming forward. The pressure is building. And your testimony hasn't even started yet. He put the phone away. You're winning, Mara. They're panicking. That's why they tried the drone strike. Desperation. Desperate people are dangerous. So are calculated people. And you're the most calculated person I've ever met. He smiled slightly. My money's on you. Your money might be misplaced. Hasn't been yet. They sat in comfortable silence, the kind that came from shared trauma and mutual respect. Finally, Mara spoke. When this is over, if I survive, I'm going to disappear. New identity, quiet life. Somewhere nobody knows what I did. You deserve that. Do I? 17 people are dead by my hand. Morrison's dead because of choices I made. How many bodies until I stop deserving peace? That's not how it works. Then how does it work? He thought carefully. You can't undo what you did, can't bring those people back. But you can make sure their deaths meant something, that the truth they died protecting, or the corruption their deaths concealed, gets exposed. You're doing that. That's not redemption, but it's something. Something. Yeah, something. He stood. Get some rest. Trial starts in 6 weeks. You need to be ready. I'm always ready. I know, but rest anyway. He left, and Mara lay there, staring at the ceiling, thinking about ledgers and mathematics, and whether 17 murders could ever balance against exposing a conspiracy. The math didn't work, never would. But maybe that was the point. Maybe some things weren't meant to balance, just resolve. The 6 weeks passed in a blur of preparation. Depositions, strategy sessions, security briefings, every day a new threat assessment, every night a different safe house. Mara's arm healed slowly. The cast came off. Physical therapy started. Nerve damage made her trigger finger unreliable, which didn't matter since she wouldn't be shooting anyone. But the symbolism felt heavy. The tool that defined her, precision marksmanship, was compromised, maybe permanently, like the universe was telling her something. Chen visited frequently, reviewing testimony, preparing for cross-examination. Blake would be brutal. They both knew it. He's going to attack your credibility, your mental state, your motives for documenting everything. Let him. I've got answers. They need to be good answers, sympathetic answers. The jury needs to see you as human, not a killing machine. I am a killing machine. Lying about it won't help. You're also someone who chose to expose corruption instead of continuing to profit from it. That's the narrative we need. Mara practiced her testimony, over and over, until the words felt natural, until the answers flowed without calculation, until she almost believed them herself. Metz. Trial started on a Monday in September. Federal courthouse in Reykjavik, renovated for the occasion. Security so tight that spectators had to pass through 4 checkpoints just to reach the gallery. 17 defendants sat at the defense table. Executives, lawyers, 1 former congressman, all looking confident, well-dressed, like this was an inconvenience, not a reckoning. Mara sat at the prosecution table, simple suit, no jewelry, hair pulled back, looking small next to the federal marshals flanking her. Chen stood for opening arguments. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this case is about 2 things. Murder and accountability. The prosecution will prove that these 17 defendants conspired to commit murder, that they hired a professional killer, Ms. Mara Vance, to eliminate threats to their criminal enterprise, and that when Ms. Vance realized what she was truly doing, she chose to document rather than continue. Buzz Chen displayed the rifle data. This is not a traditional case. We don't have traditional evidence. What we have is mathematics, physics. Irrefutable calculations that prove 17 people died by precision rifle fire, and we have financial records showing that these defendants paid for those deaths. Blake stood for the defense. 17 lawyers, but he was the lead, the face of the operation. The prosecution wants you to believe an elaborate story, That 17 successful people, business leaders, public servants, respected members of society, all conspired to commit murder, that they hired one woman to do it, and that this woman, after years of killing for money, suddenly developed a conscience and decided to document her crimes. He pointed at Mara. Look at her. Does she look like a victim? Or does she look like someone who's weaponizing the legal system to avoid responsibility for her own actions? The prosecution has data, but data can be fabricated. Calculations can be manipulated, and a clever person, someone trained in deception, can create convincing evidence of crimes that never happened. We will prove that Ms. Vance is exactly that person, clever, manipulative, dangerous, and lying to save herself while destroying innocent lives. The battle lines were drawn. The trial lasted 3 weeks. Chen called expert after expert, ballistics specialists who verified the calculations, meteorologists who confirmed atmospheric data, GPS analysts who validated coordinates. Each one said the same thing. The data was real. The shots were possible. The physics didn't lie. Blake cross-examined aggressively, found minor inconsistencies, questioned methodologies, suggested alternative explanations. But the math held. Financial experts traced payments, shell companies, offshore accounts, money flowing from the defendants to accounts controlled by Mara. Blake argued it proved nothing. Business transactions, consulting fees, legitimate payments for legitimate services. But the timing matched the kills, down to the week, sometimes the day. Then Mara took the stand. Chen led her through it gently. Background, training, how she became a precision specialist. When did you realize you weren't eliminating threats? After the 5th contract, a journalist, Sarah Vickers. I was told she was investigating terrorist financing. Actually, she was investigating procurement fraud. My client wanted her silenced. How did you find out? I read her articles after, wanted to understand what she'd been working on, what made her worth killing. Mara's voice was steady, factual. When I realized the truth, I had a choice. Stop taking contracts. Or continue, but document everything.
Why continue? Because if I stopped, they'd just hire someone else, someone who wouldn't document. The deaths would happen anyway, but if I continued, I could build a case, make the murders serve a purpose beyond profit. That's a rationalization. It is, but it's also pragmatic. I couldn't save those people, but I could make sure their deaths exposed the system. Blake's cross-examination was surgical. Ms. Vance, you admit to 17 murders. I admit to 17 executions under contract. Yes. And you profited from these executions. Substantially. How much? Total? Approximately $12 million over 7 years. The jury stirred. Big number. Hard to sympathize with someone who got rich killing people. That's a lot of money for someone claiming moral awakening. I never claimed moral awakening. I claimed strategic documentation. There's a difference. Strategic documentation. Interesting phrase. Let me ask you this. If you truly wanted to expose these crimes, why not go to authorities after the first one? Because I had no proof. One contract, one claim, against powerful people with resources to discredit me. I needed overwhelming evidence. That took time. Or you needed money. $12 million worth of time. Both can be true. Blake smiled. Indeed. So you killed 17 people, got rich, then decided to turn evidence to avoid prosecution. That's not heroism. That's self-preservation. I never claimed to be a hero. I claimed to have evidence. The motivation doesn't change the facts. The facts being that you're a confessed murderer trying to drag others down with you. The facts being that I executed contracts ordered by your clients. If I'm guilty, so are they. That's not dragging them down. That's acknowledging shared responsibility. Blake tried different angles: mental health, reliability, whether the documentation was fabricated. But Mara didn't break, didn't get emotional, just answered with the same clinical precision she used for everything. Like she was solving problems, not defending her life. When cross-examination ended, Chen had one final question on redirect. Ms. Vance, do you regret what you did? Mara paused, really thought about it. I regret that it was necessary. I regret that people like Sarah Vickers died for threatening powerful interests. I regret that I was the instrument of their deaths. She looked at the jury. But I don't regret documenting it, because without documentation, their deaths would have meant nothing. Now, they mean something. That's not redemption, but it's better than silence. The prosecution rested. Paquette. Deliberations took 4 days. Mara spent them in a secure holding area, reading, exercising, practicing with her damaged hand to see if the precision would ever return. It wouldn't. The nerve damage was permanent. She'd never shoot competitively again. Funny how that bothered her more than the potential prison sentence. Rourke visited on the 3rd day. "How are you holding up?" "Fine. Prepared for either outcome." "Which outcome do you think is more likely?" "Conviction on all counts. The evidence is overwhelming, but whether they convict me alone or include the defendants," she shrugged. 50-50. "Juries are unpredictable." "You really are ready for anything." "I've had months to calculate probabilities. Best case, they convict the defendants and give me immunity for cooperation. Worst case, they convict everyone and I spend life in prison. Middle case, hung jury, and we do this again." She set down her book. "Can't control outcomes. Only preparation." "You sound like you're briefing a mission. Isn't that what this is? Final mission? Outcome uncertain. Extraction unlikely." He sat down. "If you could go back, change things, would you?" "Which part? The killing? The documentation? The decision to expose everything?" "Any of it." She considered. "I'd change getting caught in Iceland. Poor risk management on my part. Should have had better extraction protocols." She smiled slightly. "But the rest? No, this needed to happen. The network needed exposure, and I was the only one positioned to do it. That's not an answer about regret, because I don't think about it that way. Regret is emotional. This was mathematical. I had information. I had capability. I made a choice." She met his eyes. "Some choices don't have clean answers. You just pick the option that solves the most variables and accept the consequences. That's bleak. That's honest." Before he could respond, a marshal entered. "Jury's back." The courtroom was packed. Media, family members of the victims, federal agents, everyone waiting to see if justice meant anything when the defendants had unlimited resources and the witness was a confessed killer. The jury filed in. 12 people, looking exhausted, somber. Not a good sign. Easy verdicts came fast. Hard ones took days. The judge called for order. "Has the jury reached a verdict?" The foreman stood. Middle-aged woman. "Teacher, according to the jury selection notes." "We have, Your Honor." "On the charge of conspiracy to commit murder, how do you find the defendants?" Pause. Long enough that Mara felt her pulse spike. "Guilty. On all counts." The courtroom exploded. Defendants shouting, lawyers objecting, marshals calling for order. Mara sat perfectly still, processing, calculating. They'd won. The defendants were convicted. The conspiracy was proven, which meant her testimony was credible. Her evidence was accepted, which meant, "On the charge of murder for hire, how do you find the defendant Mara Vance?" Silence. "Guilty." Of course. She'd confessed, provided evidence of her own crimes. There was no other verdict possible. But then the foreman continued. "However, the jury recommends leniency based on the defendant's cooperation and the extraordinary circumstances of her documentation efforts. We believe she should receive credit for exposing the conspiracy." The judge nodded. "The jury's recommendation will be considered during sentencing. Ms. Vance, you will remain in custody pending sentencing hearing in 30 days. Gavel, order, the machinery of justice grinding forward. Mara felt hands on her arms. Marshals. Leading her out. Back to custody. She looked back once, saw Rourke, Chen, both looking relieved, exhausted, victorious maybe. She tried to feel the same. Failed. Because the math was clear. She'd won the mission, exposed the conspiracy, brought down 17 corrupt individuals. But she'd also lost. Conviction meant prison. Years, probably. Even with leniency. The ledger was balanced, but not in her favor. Still. 17 names, 17 truths, against one life, one freedom. The mathematics worked, just not the way she'd hoped. Sentencing came 4 weeks later. The courtroom was smaller this time. No media circus, just the principals. Judge, lawyers, Mara. Blake made his final argument. The defendant's cooperation doesn't erase 17 murders. She's a danger to society, a trained killer who operated with impunity for years. Life imprisonment is the only appropriate sentence, Chen countered.
The defendant turned herself into a witness against a criminal conspiracy that would still be operating if not for her courage. She documented crimes at great personal risk. She deserves recognition for that. The judge looked at Mara. Ms. Vance, do you have anything to say? Mara stood. One last calculation. I don't expect forgiveness. I killed 17 people. That's fact. But I also exposed a network that killed dozens more through fraud and corruption. That's also fact. She paused. I can't change what I did, but I can accept responsibility for it, and I can hope that what I expose prevents future deaths. That's all I have. That's all I can offer. The judge nodded, consulted her notes. This court recognizes the extraordinary nature of this case. The defendant committed terrible crimes, but she also exposed a conspiracy that threatened national security and public safety. Balancing these factors is unprecedented. She looked at Mara. The sentence is 15 years, with credit for time served and eligibility for parole after 7 years, contingent on continued cooperation with ongoing investigations. 15 years. Not life, but not freedom either. Mara felt the weight settle, accepted it. Thank you, Your Honor. One more thing. The judge pulled out a document. The families of several victims have submitted impact statements. I'm entering them into the record, but I'm also noting that 3 families, including Sarah Vickers' mother, have submitted letters requesting leniency. They believe your documentation gave meaning to deaths that would otherwise have been meaningless. I find that remarkable. Mara felt something crack, not breaking, just shifting, like ice melting after a long freeze. 3 families, out of 17, not forgiveness, but acknowledgement that maybe, possibly, the death served a purpose. It wasn't much, but it was something. Court is adjourned. They transferred her to a federal facility the next day. Minimum security, reserved for white-collar criminals and cooperating witnesses. Not pleasant, but not the supermax she'd feared. Rourke came to visit 2 weeks later. How is it? Predictable. Routine. Boring. She smiled slightly. I'm good at routine. Chen sends her regards. She's prosecuting the secondary cases now. 4 more trials lined up, all using your evidence. Good. Make it count. She is. They are. He leaned forward. The network is collapsing. Executives resigning. Contracts being audited. Your exposure triggered a complete overhaul of defense procurement. They're calling it the Vance Protocols. That's ironic. That's legacy. She thought about that. Legacy. Not as a killer, as someone who broke a system. What about you? Still flying rescue ops? Promoted. Commander Voss put me in for it after Iceland. Apparently saving a federal witness and calling in unauthorized airstrikes looks good on a performance review. He smiled. Who knew? Anyone paying attention? They sat in comfortable silence. 2 people whose lives had intersected at impossible angles and somehow created something resembling friendship. What happens when you get out? He asked. Witness protection. New name, quiet life. No shooting, no contracts. Just existing. She looked at her damaged hand. Might be nice.
Being no one. You'll never be no one. Maybe not, but I can try. She met his eyes. Thank you for pulling me from that ocean, for believing me, for being there when everything went sideways. You made it easy by being right about everything. Not everything. I didn't expect to survive this long. Shows how much you know about yourself. Shows how much I still need to learn. 7 years passed. Parole hearing, same judge, older now, but still sharp. Ms. Vance, you've served your time with exemplary conduct, continued cooperation with federal investigations, educational programs, rehabilitation efforts. The board recommends parole. Mara stood. 7 years of routine, of calculating nothing more dangerous than meal schedules and exercise rotations. Thank you. Conditions are strict. Ankle monitor for 2 years. Regular check-ins with your parole officer. No contact with anyone associated with your previous life. Understand? Understood. One more thing. The judge pulled out a folder. I've been following the cases built on your evidence. 43 convictions, 12 industries reformed, billions in fraudulent contracts canceled, lives saved because equipment met safety standards instead of being rushed through corrupt channels. She looked at Mara.
That doesn't excuse what you did, but it means something. Remember that. I will. They released her on a Tuesday. Cloudy. Cold. The kind of day that felt transitional. Chen was waiting outside the gate. Older. Gray streaking her hair, but smiling. Thought you might need a ride. You didn't have to come. I wanted to. You're part of history now. My most complicated case. My biggest victory. My most troubling win. She drove. Plus, someone else wanted to see you. They drove to a quiet park overlooking the ocean. And there, standing by a bench, was Rourke. Retired now, civilian clothes. But still carrying himself like someone used to command. You made parole. Turns out being a model prisoner is easier than being a model assassin. He laughed. What's next? Disappearing. New identity. Witness protection set me up in Montana. Small town, quiet. No one knows me. She looked at the ocean, the same cold water that should have killed her. Might take up woodworking or painting. Something where precision matters, but people don't die. Sounds peaceful. Sounds boring, but I could use boring. They stood together, 3 people connected by impossible circumstances, by choices that balanced 17 deaths against exposing corruption that would have killed hundreds more. The math still didn't work. Probably never would. But standing there looking at water that once tried to claim her, Mara felt something unexpected. Not redemption, not forgiveness, just the quiet knowledge that she'd done one thing right. Made one calculation that actually mattered, turned 17 murders into 17 truths. And sometimes, that's all you get. Not balance, not justice, just the certainty that numbers, when used correctly, can't lie. And lies, when exposed with precision, can't survive. Thank you, she said quietly. Both of you. For seeing past what I was to what I tried to become. You're welcome, Chen said. Rourke just nodded, understanding what she meant. They stood there until the sun broke through clouds, until the cold became bearable, until it felt like maybe, possibly, the future held something other than calculations and consequences. Then Mara walked away. Into witness protection, into obscurity, into whatever came next for someone who'd calculated everything except how to live without purpose. But she'd figure it out. She always did. One shot at a time. The world doesn't change because heroes emerge. It changes when people with precise tools choose to aim them at truth instead of profit. When calculation serves exposure instead of elimination. When someone, somewhere, decides that 17 deaths should mean 17 revelations and has the mathematics to prove it. Your truth might not require a rifle, but it requires the same precision, the same courage, the same willingness to document when staying silent is safer. Calculate carefully, aim true, and never forget, physics doesn't forgive lies.